Hey everyone, Old School Pokemon here, back again with the PokeFlipz podcast, joined by my usual co-host, KetchumAllCollectibles Dan, and today we've got a very special guest joining us. We got Mr. PokeChef himself. How you both doing today?
Good.
Doing great. Still not caught up on sleep from the weekend, but yeah, the weekend will be the topic for today. I think everyone out there knows who we have as our special guest for today. The one man in the world who was crazy enough to attend both Gen Con and Charlotte in the same weekend. But yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Chef, take the stage, let everyone know who you are, where to find you, and what you got going on.
So my name is Matthew. Go by PokeChef 954. You guys can find me on all the platforms for the most part. Kind of IG PokeChef 954. You guys find me there. I am an executive chef. It's a real thing. If you guys don't know, I'm sure everybody knows by now and everything. But yeah, that's where you can find me. PokeChef 954.
There you go. And I think I did link. Yeah, I did link the Instagram in the description. If anyone wants to go find them over there.
Yeah.
How do you guys want to go at this? There's so much stuff from last weekend. 2 entire separate trips. One man bridged the gap between both. We'll talk about it from every which way. But how do you guys want to dive into this?
However you want.
I think, Nick, you guys started earlier, right? I flew into Charlotte Thursday night. If you wanted, didn't you go to Gen Con from like Wednesday? Isn't that like a much longer weekend for the event?
So I don't know when Gen Con starts. I think they might start Wednesday. Do like a short day Wednesday and then all day Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's definitely a 4-day event. It might be part Wednesday. But basically I flew in. What did I do? I flew in. I left Boston super early on Thursday. Flew into Chicago, got a rental car, picked up Walrus because Walrus had all of our like lighting and packaging supplies for the eBay Lives. So he really couldn't fly. So I picked him up in Chicago. Actually, Brad flew into Chicago as well. So I picked Walrus up at his house. We drove back to the airport, picked Brad up. And then me, Walrus, and Brad drove down to Indy for Gen Con, which wasn't too bad of a drive. It was like a 3-hour drive, so it wasn't too bad. We had a time change though, which was kind of weird. So like Chicago's Central Time, Gen Con is East Coast time. So it was a 3-hour drive, but it was like 4 hours of time. So we got there, it was like 3:00 on Thursday, and got to the Airbnb. We all got an Airbnb, which was awesome. Got to the Airbnb, and then we went and checked out Gen Con to see what it was all about. And walking into Gen Con it blew away any expectations that I had. Because obviously, like big conventions that I'm thinking of are the Collecticons. New Jersey, there was a ton of people in New Jersey, and all the other Collecticons are usually really busy. It's a big convention center, so I'm thinking something similar to what a Collecticon would be like. Because I had never been to Gen Con. I've watched a few videos online, but really didn't know what I was getting into. And walking into the convention center, it makes Collecticon look like a local show that doesn't have anyone there. Gen Con is absolutely massive. They don't just rent out one like hall of the convention center. It's literally the entire convention center is Gen Con. They were saying, we heard it from someone, 75,000 people were at the convention. It was literally like shoulder to shoulder people. It was tough to like walk around without getting stuck behind someone, which was incredible to see. It definitely it made me really optimistic on the nerd culture. Because for those of you who don't know, Gen Con is they had a little bit of Pokemon, like Troll and Toad was there. Who else was there? Collector's Catch was there. Cool Stuff Inc. was there. With Pokemon stuff, but it was really only 3 or 4 vendors with Pokemon. There was a decent bit of Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh, but then the majority of the convention is focused around on like board games and stuff like that. So Dungeons and Dragons, Catan, which these losers had never even heard of. But yeah, the amount of people that were there and the interest that was there, it was insane. So that made me feel really good about not just like the big games that we know of, Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, but just everything in general. Gave you a really good feeling of just how much interest is in this stuff, and stuff that I had never even heard of was super popular there. So that was really cool to see. And then obviously I was there for the eBay live streams. So Thursday we kind of walked around quickly. We didn't have too much time because the convention shut down at I think it was 5 or 6. So we kind of walked around quick. They have, like I said, they have the whole convention center. They have little rooms with like small events going on that you have to get tickets to, like panels and stuff like that. And then they had one giant area of the convention center just for people to play the different games, which that reminded me a lot of like Worlds. When you go into Worlds, you see all the tables and people actually playing it. And then another giant area of all the vendors, which is kind of similar to like a Collecticon type of thing, but it's more of just legit, not that we're not legitimate, but like legitimate businesses. It's nobody small. It's all like the big names, people demoing their new games, stuff like that. But so eBay, I was there for eBay and the eBay Live. So we made our way over to the eBay booth, and I had met with them, and they kind of went over what their booth's going to look like, what the setup's going to be. So I kind of had an idea on what it was going to look like, but getting there and actually seeing what their booth looked like, they did a really, really good job of how their booth was set up. I was pretty impressed with the layout that they had. It was mainly focused around eBay Live this year, which was awesome for me. So they had a big stage, which if you saw any of the live, you saw that stage. Up above the stage, there was a big jumbotron. It was like a 3-sided jumbotron where people could actually see what you're seeing on the phone in real time, like the audience. So that was really cool. But yeah, it was wild. Just that first day was absolutely wild. They did have a small area with it was like 20 30 cards. Z&G Emporium actually had on display. I gotta say, James, the display was a little lackluster there.
Dang.
He brought all his grails to put out on display. We're talking like PSA 8 felt hat Pikachus. There was like a PSA 9 Lost Origin character rare Pikachu.
He must have been fighting with some insurance limits or something on his travel budget. James, you got to pump that travel limit up a little bit if that's what we're bringing.
he was saying he didn't want to bring anything too high end because obviously it's all consignment stuff, so he didn't want to risk anything happening. But I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, he had some cards on display there. And then we got to meet up with James for dinner Saturday night or Thursday night, which was awesome. Got to see him for the first time. We went out to one of the Brazilian grills. He had never been to one of those, so we had a good time there. That was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then just to be able to see him was awesome. And then and then did a little bit of a live Thursday night. After we got back from dinner, hung out with James for a little bit. James left like around 10ish, and then me, Brad, and Walrus hopped on, did a little bit of an eBay live for a couple hours, and then Chef enters the story after. Were we still live when you got there, or were we finished?
Just ended. It was like 2 in the morning.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we end the live, and then Chef gets there, which was awesome. So then it was the four amigos the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Actually, one thing I wanted to bring up. So Collecticon lately, especially, but it's always been kind of a thing. The lines are really bad. I think they are moving tens of thousands through Collecticons on individual events. Not 75,000 though. Like I don't know the exact number, but I'm quite confident it's significantly below 75,000. What was like? Is it just several entrances all the way around the whole building? Like, what was how are they able to do it and not have a 2-hour backup like Collecticon seems to have every time?
That was a good. Walrus just left a comment about that. That was really good. Literally no lines. It maybe a little bit concerning. They have security walking around, but there is no security to get in.
Anything.
You just walk right in. So there is no line to get in, which is awesome. So no waiting in line. They do have multiple entrances. They've got like the one main entrance, and then they've got a few other entrances around the building.
Walrus has a question that's more of a comment. Taking Chef from Gencon to cook Sunday only to hear Dan order Domino's. Domino's was requested. The kids wanted pizza. The host wanted pizza. We needed to feed some people before the big feast. So we did have Domino's before the big feast. But we will get there. I will say, Nick, I forget what night it was. I want to say Friday night maybe. Did you hang out with James Friday night too?
When did we hang out with him? Thursday night we went out for dinner.
Or maybe Saturday night?
Saturday we hung out we hung out with him a few times, didn't we? I feel like Friday night, yes, at the trade night.
Friday night.
So Friday we did our whole eBay live thing, which was awesome. Ton of fun doing that. And then Friday night eBay hosted a trade night, which was also a lot of fun. I
heard open bar,
appetizers, open bar.
That's wild.
It was a awesome time. But yeah, so Friday night, I don't think James realized how much of a pillar I was, because we were talking about Gen Con and obviously getting together for dinner Thursday night. And so we hung out Thursday. He never mentioned that he was going to be at the trade night on Friday, but we got there, and then shortly after we got there, we saw him and Lauren there as well. But I think he was just surprised to see me there.
I did get a late night message from somebody. I'm not going to tattle on who it was, but I got a late night message that Nick had a gathering around him and he was overheard talking about tax advice. That's all I'm saying. I heard that some amount of late night Nick tax talk was going on. Maybe too much. I mean, what are we in year 4 of the podcast now? Too much time with Dan on the podcast. It's brushing off on him.
Yes, that's what it is.
How did the live streams go though? I didn't watch any of the live. Obviously, I was at my own event. But I saw the Instagram stories. I saw a few pictures. Looked like everyone got to be up on the stage, and you had a bunch of hands to help out. It looked like.
Yeah, so it was me doing all the talking, showing the cards. Walrus was just kind of sitting there.
You need some models for the cards, right?
Starting the auctions, blocking people in chat that had stupid comments, and then doing everything after the auction, putting the stickers on, putting the cards in order. And then Brad and Chef were up there handing out packs to the people in the audience, which was cool. But yeah, no, the lives were so much fun. I had an hour and a half up on the stage doing the actual lives, and the time flew by. I wasn't able to run as much as I would have liked to, but obviously it's a massive promoted stream. So really you're there to sell a little bit, but also grow the following. That's kind of the key. Bring awareness to the lives, which was really, really cool. eBay actually gifted me a fossil booster box. So that was awesome. I basically did giveaways with that. I did like 15-second sudden death penny auctions, and so it started off at a penny and then the normal eBay bid increments. But because of the delay within eBay Live, the price never went above, I think the highest pack sold for like $7.
So people were just mashing the buttons, and it was just luck based who would get it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually funny how like a bug of the system of the app became a feature for that. That's actually kind of hilarious.
Yes. So that was a lot of fun. I did because the packs were giveaways. Basically we ran a pack and then opened it right away. Didn't let anyone keep theirs sealed, so I got to open an entire fossil box, which was so much fun. We had decent luck. We pulled the Dragonite, which was awesome. That was the card I wanted to pull. We pulled the Articuno, the Moltres. We pulled a Raichu. We didn't pull the Gengar, but it was a decent box. Dragonite was obviously the biggest highlight for me. I was so happy about that. But that made the stream a lot of fun. There were actually a few people at Gen Con who won. There were two people who won one of the fossil packs, and they were right by the stage while we were opening the pack. So that was kind of cool to actually be able to put faces to the names of the people who were actually winning these packs. But yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. And then it was kind of weird having it like being an actual production. They put those little mics on all of us. The lighting was really good. They actually had like legitimate cameras. There was actually people watching us. It was a lot different and a lot more fun than just doing them alone in my basement.
So what do you think, Chef? What about adding a little chef flavor to all this? Get a little bit of Chef's POV over everything that he covered.
Yeah, I'll give you, I guess, top to bottom. So Thursday I worked. I went, did all my stuff there, packed out my car with a bunch of food and coolers and ice and all sorts of stuff, and then drove straight from work to Wonder's house. And it was pretty much unload the food, what I could at Wonder's house, and then straight to the airport. So it was like unload the food, change, straight to the airport. And then I got delayed, but I keep saying it's tradition now, because every Pokemon flight I've had has been delayed somewhere. So I got delayed. So I didn't get to Nick and them till 2 a.m. And then he was just ending the live. We were just kind of hanging out. Oh, I couldn't get a Uber, and the first Uber wouldn't take me to like the neighborhood where the B&B was. And I was like, all right. And then the second guy I was like hassling with, and then he took me, but then he dropped me a little bit before the house. So I'm 2 a.m. with like 2 bags, just walking around the neighborhood trying to find his house number. And he was still like finishing up the stream, so I couldn't get a hold of anybody. So finally got in there. But yeah, so he ended the stream. We kind of hung out, and then the next morning we get up and we go to Gen Con and drive, like when you drive to it, you go down one street, and at the very end of the street, it's like a dead end, and it's front and center, this big building, and it's right next to Lucas Oil Stadium. So it's really cool to like as you're going down, you see it, and then as soon as you hit that turn to go straight at the end, there's just people and nerds everywhere, just all sorts of stuff, and there's restaurants. So it's a really, really cool area to have it. And then you walk in, and it's overwhelming. It's huge. It's crazy. I feel like that building was bigger than like the convention center in Charlotte. I feel like that building was a lot larger than even that. And then they utilized the entire building, every room, like the whole, like space is their advantage 1,000%. So we did that. We met the eBay Live team and kind of went back there. And then we did the live stream. The live stream, like Nick said, was amazing. Like the stage, eBay Live, like really was the best showing out there. They had the best booth. They had the stage. They had the Jumbotron. The eBay Live team is like super nice people, very kind. So they were very helpful with everything. Then Nick gets up there and just dominates the stream. I'm probably going to gloat about Nick a lot because he's too humble, but he goes up there and just crushes it. You don't understand. So Nick was like the talk of all Gen Con. People were coming up who I don't even think were there for Pokemon, and were seeing what Nick was doing. So I guess eBay Live gifted everybody a box, but Nick was the only one who took advantage of that and like really did the penny auction thing. And then people were like, penny auction, what? And it just created this buzz and then just rapidly spread. So as he's doing them, like the crowd just comes around the stage and you see everybody just head down, just tapping on their phone, and people dropping their phones, and everybody's just tapping away. And when he finished the live, it was just like everybody was just blown away. And then they're like, "Are you going to do this tomorrow?" That there was so much excitement about him. And so anyway, so we finished that day, and Nick looked like a complete rock star, super stud, crushes it. And we get ready and we do the eBay Live like trade night event, which was incredible. The restaurant that it was in was beautiful, and then they had the open bar and everything. That was very nice. And hung out, and I think Nick was trying to stream that night, and I'm like, no. And then Nick was like, again, when he was in the room after that stream, he was the superstar. Everybody wanted to go talk to Nick. Every single person in that room at some point gravitated to Nick, and the whole time. And it was hilarious because Nick got us all these shirts that matched. And everybody's like, "Oh, your team." It backfired on him so hard. everybody kept thinking like a group thing, and we're all like, "No, it's Nick. It's just Nick. It's just Nick." Right? It was hilarious as far as that goes. But yeah, everybody wanted a conversation with Nick. Everybody wanted to talk to Nick about something. And then we're over here, and I'm like, I think Nick should just soak this in right now, just do his thing, like take it all in instead of streaming. And then eventually you did do that. You just kind of took it in and networked and did all that. And then after that, we ended up hanging out a little bit more. And that's kind of where the Lorcana dude comes in, and he was wild. I won't, put him on blast, but he was hilarious. And we went to bed very, very late that night. And then we woke up the next day, and it was the same thing. Go to Gen Con, walked around for a second, and then it was pretty much eBay Live again. And then by that time, everybody was kind of ready for that one. And Nick gets up there and does it again, crushes it. Everybody's going bananas, for these auctions. And he ended that again, looked like a stud. We left there. And then Nick streamed that night. And then the stream was very late. And then that was the night that we were already running on low sleep. And then we had that crazy day. And then that was the night that, he went really late. And I had to leave for the airport. So I think it was like an hour turnaround. By the time we went to bed, it was
quick
like
power nap.
Yeah, my Uber's coming real soon. I got it like scheduled. So then, I went straight from there. Landed. Wonder picked me up right away. He was on point, like a stud, super on time. Took me to his house. I think I showered, changed, and then we went to the grocery store. Bierski and I went to the grocery store, got a bunch of groceries, dropped it off, and then I wanted to stop by Collecticon for a second to say hi to everybody, which I did. It was like I was probably there 20, 30 minutes, but I probably could have saved doing that. I probably could have, like, I wish I would have napped instead, because I was torn. I was like, either I'm going to nap or I'm going to go. And then I was afraid if I napped, I would be knocked out too much. And then if I didn't go, I was afraid that I'd miss somebody who wasn't going to be at Wonders. So it was kind of like that, but it was real quick, in and out. And then went to Wonders. When I got there, Radar was there. That was cool to meet him. And then I just started taking over his kitchen, and then kind of started the show. And then I cooked for as long as I cooked for. It was hours, which is very challenging. So it's already challenging to do something like that on that quantity in a home. It's very hard also to do that to that extent without pretty much having anything to set yourself up for. Like, had I been there the day before, I would have had sauces done. I would have had things cut already. I would have had a lot of stuff. So it's pretty much throwing things in the oven and just breaking things out and heating up a sauce. It would have been ready within an hour. That's how ahead I could have got. But doing everything from scratch with everybody there and people watching, it definitely took a while. So I kept telling you guys, like, Dan, I was stressed about time, and I just felt bad about time, but I was going as fast as
it worked out perfect. Before I talked down your help, because I was part of the abysmal assistance there. You did have one MVP sidekick. You did have one pair of helping hands. Wonder's wife. Shout out to Wonder's wife.
Oh, shout out to Wonder's wife.
She was crushing it in the kitchen by him. Aside from that, so S tier, you got Chef, you got Wonder's wife, and then it was a long way down to like me and Bierski. We were doing our best. We were doing what we could do, but we weren't quite as much help, but we did what we could.
Yeah, everybody helped. I started at some point. I was just whoever was around me in eye distance, making eye contact. I was asking, "Hey, you want to do this? You want to do that?"
Yeah,
I giving direction to help get it done, and then find like a chef thing. Once you spend all day cooking or doing something, you don't want to eat. You just like want to go home or be done with it. So after I finished cooking everything, that's like where I was like, everybody enjoy. Let me just sit down, hang out, have a beer. But it was funny. People were like, you're not going to eat. I'm like, that's kind of normal, but I guess it's not normal for people who aren't around a bunch of chefs, I guess. So I was like, all right, I get a plate and hung out a little bit. Then the rest of the night was incredible. That was fun. And then, the next morning took Bierski, helped Warner clean up, took Bierski to the airport, took Warner to drop off this rent-a-car, and drove home, stopped and got barbecue. And then that was that. But I was tired. Bierski was funny because he said it on Mason's. Bierski's seen like every layer of me. Out of everybody, he's seen like full circle chef. So on that day specifically, he saw me like dying. I was so tired at one point, and then I like at one point I was like, man, I might just buy everybody food because I'm not sure. I'm like, man, I don't know. And then I saw a smoothie place. I was like, oh, I need this smoothie. Smoothie would get me back. So I had smoothie, Tylenol, caffeine. That's kind of chef life right there in a bundle. And then I pounded that. Once all that kicked in, I was back in the game, in the zone, knew what I had to do, and then got it done. My favorite part about all of that was when I got to show you the tenderloins. That was like the most enjoyable, like fun thing. One of the most fun thing in the whole weekend. I love that little section of time. It was awesome.
Yeah, I very much appreciated that. I told you that like my poor wife, when I buy a tenderloin, it's like I just cut it into steaks and cook it. I don't the chain and the like all that. I don't do any of that. I just cut it and I cook it. I'll have to start. I don't think they sell them like that, right? Do they sell at any butchers just completely trimmed, fully ready to go? Like all this is like some assembly required. Like I buy briskets a lot. I'm more comfortable like trimming a brisket. I've just kind of figured that out by doing it, watching a bunch of videos. But getting that one-on-one, that was, I very much appreciate that. That was a highlight of my weekend too. It was a weekend of highlights, and that was one amongst them for sure.
This is very cool.
But yeah, that's a whirlwind of a weekend. You packed a lot in there. I think, as I said at the outset, I think you were the only one crazy enough to do both. Like maybe someone not in our circle, maybe someone that we're not aware of, live in between the two, and they went to one on Thursday or Friday and then to the other one on Sunday. Very well could be that someone else did it, but you're our person that did it, and it's cool to it's cool to hear that full story, both sides of it, the whole transition and all that. But these weekends are not made. You're not supposed to sleep during them. You borrow you borrow from future Matt, from future Nick, future Dan. You are going to pay the price so I can enjoy this weekend. And thankfully that's the way it's always done. But yeah, that's awesome. Long enough timeline, like I always say, I want to go to all the Collecticon locations eventually. I want to go to the Gen Con, to the card party, to another Worlds event. Like there's so many great, and even like Gen Con is obviously a lot less Pokemon, but I'm a board game guy. My wife and I have a few like standard ones that we go to. Race for the Galaxy and Seven Wonders Duel are like two of our long-standing ones that we really enjoyed. I don't know if anyone will have heard of those. I don't know if their specific manufacturers would have been there at Gen Con, but it would be cool to walk around and kind of like play test a couple games, get a feel, get a look for them. I'm sure I'll make one eventually, given how many people I know around the area.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It is a lot of fun to go check out. And then I didn't even realize but we actually so Mason Cardinal Gaming, he's about 2 hours south of Indy. And so Sunday before heading back to, because I had a late flight Monday before heading back to Chicago, Walrus and I actually drove down to Mason's shop and got to see his shop for the first time. Hung out with him just for a little bit, because then we had to drive back to Chicago. But he was saying, I remember him talking about this in one of the podcasts he did last year after Gen Con. The stadium actually is like people playing games on like the stadium. So the stadium opens up for Gen Con as well. And we never even checked out the stadium.
No.
That was one regret that I had. I wish we ventured over there.
Me too.
But I completely forgot about that part.
Walrus Wyland in chat. As always. So here we go. Pokemon DK says, Chef, what would be your dream Pokemon to cook and eat, and what would you avoid?
I would definitely cook Miltank. Miltank's the easy one, right?
Yeah.
Avoid any poison Pokemon or anything. None of that. I can never cook a Jigglypuff. It's too cute.
Safe choices.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get there are a lot of buffalo, deer, cow type Pokemon to choose from. So getting the ribeyes going from them, getting the king little eggs, getting the you got a lot to choose from.
Yep.
But yeah, that dinner. What are the biggest thing for me? The biggest highlights. I guess let me start before I go on my whole thing. What were like 2 or 3 like the biggest highlights from your Gen Con portion of the weekend?
Man, seeing like Nick do his thing and then crush it, that was really cool to see. And then like Nick and Walrus are such a good team, and Walrus, we give him a hard time. He doesn't get enough credit. He does. They're so awesome. How they're set, how they got everything rolling is crazy. So to be able to kind of watch that and see that and learn, that was huge for me. And then the introductions to the eBay Live team and speaking with them was massive. And then I would say after that, it would have to be like the dinner at Wonders, as busy as I was, but like specifically showing you how to clean the tenderloins was pretty awesome. And then being able to enjoy it after was awesome. And then I felt like accomplished that I was able to like complete everything and like do everything and like follow through all the way to the end. So I felt proud about that. Yeah. And then I just also like shout out to Brad. Brad's such a stud. So I never met Brad before either. And he's definitely a highlight of the weekend too. Like getting to know Brad. And then Brad actually helped me out with my first like little deal. So shout out to Brad. He's very awesome guy. Very awesome guy.
What about you, Nick? Top 2 or 3 highlights?
Seeing James, being able to go out for dinner with him, hang out with him a bit at the trade night, and then seeing him at the convention. Because he's one that he doesn't go to conventions. He's planning to come to Chicago, which will be awesome. But before Gen Con, the last time we saw him was the Pokemon Saves the World event that must have been 2021. So that was really cool to see him again. Be able to catch up with him a bit. And then like Chef said, being able to actually meet the eBay Live people was huge for me. And actually being able to talk to them, because like I talked to them through email, an occasional Zoom call, and so I've talked to them before, but I've never actually met them face to face. And so being able to meet them face to face, talk to them at Gen Con, talk to them again later on at the trade night, and actually have be able to have conversations with them about what I want to see with eBay Live, what's going on with eBay Live. It made me so much more bullish on eBay Live than I have been. Because lately, like the plan, I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I think I might have mentioned on PokeFlipz. But if not, the plan for me right now is I don't have an exact time frame, but come probably like October, November-ish, move out to Chicago to be closer to Walrus. And my plan pre-Gen Con was kind of, okay, I'll continue the nighttime lives with eBay, but what do I do during the daytime? Because obviously if I'm going to move out there, I don't want to just keep doing the same thing, because I can do the same thing where I'm at right now. So do I do eBay in the afternoon, or do I try Whatnot? Because obviously Ray is absolutely killing it on Whatnot right now. Weedle started doing Whatnot, and so I was kind of thinking maybe I give Whatnot a try in the afternoon and do eBay at night. So that was my plan pre-Gen Con. After Gen Con, hearing what the eBay Live people have to say and kind of the direction they're taking eBay Live, Whatnot is back out of the question. I am so bullish on eBay Live. I'm gonna stick with that and roll with that. So that was really refreshing to hear. Obviously, I've been bullish on eBay Live, but to kind of hear their plan and how they know about these issues and all that was really, really good to hear. So that was awesome. And then just being able to hang out with Brad in particular, because I hadn't seen Brad I hadn't seen since the beginning of the year. So that was really good to see. And then Chef and Walrus as well. Always good to get together with them.
Do you think, well, one, is there any nuggets you can drop on these eBay Live conversations, or is it all just double top secret type stuff?
I think I'm going to keep my lips sealed on that.
You think it's, I mean, words are easy, right? Talk is easy. Walk is a little bit harder. Do you think, I mean, I'm not talking with eBay specifically.
Yes. But I do think it's more, the eBay Live team seems to be eBay seems to be taking eBay Live seriously, which sounds stupid because eBay Live has been around for a year now, but it didn't sound like they were taking it that seriously for a very long time, and now they are taking it seriously. And so I think we are going to start to see some improvements and start to see some changes for the better. That'll improve eBay Live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the stuff that they did at eBay Live, or the stuff that they were aware of and knew, and they were like, we got it. You know, it was impressive. It made me feel the same. It made me feel like, oh man, like they have it. They just wait, you know, just kind of sit back and wait. But it made me feel very excited for the future of eBay Live and what they got going on. And Walrus said it too, Lorcana too. Talking, the guy was spilling some tea a little bit here and there, and yeah, pretty bullish on future Lorcana as well.
I'll say quick for TCG House question for Nick. I've had a lot of people like ask, how do you get into eBay Live? My account's actually ready to go on. I just haven't done it yet. A lot of people, I ask them, hey, have you filled out the interest form? Have you gone to like eBay Live seller sign up, whatever it's called? Google it, find it, submit an application. I think a lot of people that are like jonesing to get in are, and I'm not saying TCG House this is the case, but like if you haven't yet, go apply to it. It's not going to just fall in your lap. Like there is a formal application process. So I would get in that immediately if you're not in it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, even after filling that out, you're probably going to be waiting and waiting and waiting. It's not going to be something that happens overnight, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know of people. That said, I also know of people who did that several months ago and have still not gotten, like, I don't know what their selection process is with that. Yeah, no idea on the process of that, but there is a formal way to do it. I would at least start there, and then, yeah, maybe Nick can hook you up, but I don't know. One thing I wanted to say, asking about like your event thing, one thing that's funny with all these events is my highlights are never the event themselves. Like I think Gen Con sounds like it puts on a little bit more of a show. Maybe like Card Party puts on more of a show, more things going on, more things to see and do. Whereas Collecticon is like buying and selling, which is fine. The one or two little things that they do are always my least favorite part about it. So I'm not even saying like Collecticon, please don't get more acts. Please don't get more concerts. Like I'm cool with it just being buying and selling, but my biggest thing in the hobby is like the people. It's always late night at the bar, playing darts, playing bocce, playing whatever. It's at someone's house, getting together, playing basketball, and it would be cool if an event was so good. But the biggest thing for me is like the event draws in a lot of cool people, and then you hang out with them in and outside of the event, and it's always just a blast. But Chicago, I mean, I sold really well. I'll probably, unless people ask specifically or want to hear about it, I'm going to do like a full hour-long recap on my channel on Monday. So I was more interested in hearing about Gen Con because I don't think we're getting one of those from Nick. So I can quickly recap my weekend at some point. But yeah, it's my sales were really good. I always have good stuff priced well. I always sell a large amount. I always have a number that I'm after, and I pretty much have always gotten there. But yeah, the common theme is like it's the people. So whether I'm going to Gen Con or Collecticon, or my best times are probably going to be had outside of the events themselves. They're going to be just with the people at the dinners, at the houses like that.
I don't know about your good stuff priced well. I've heard some conflicting opinions about Charlotte. I've heard a few people say it was decent, and then a few people that said it was absolutely brutal. And I know they have good stuff priced well, so I don't know anymore. I don't know. I think location might play a part there.
There's definitely some people that got swarmed by the concerts. Definitely Ray's section was in a rough spot during the 30-minute window that the concert happened. I mean, the convention is an 8-hour thing, but I've talked about this before. If you're looking for the end consumer only, if you're looking to sell your stuff for between 90 and 100%, there's a lot of luck involved. You need to have the right item, the more liquid, the more modern, the more high pop, like the more crowd pleasing the item is, the more likely you're going to find that common buyer. Because like if you have a mid-era PSA 10 that's $1,000 versus having like a Moonbryon, there are so many more consumers of a Moonbryon that you're gonna have better luck having that better inventory, better in that it's more liquid, more likely to sell. But still, Like there's going to be 20 Moonbreons in the room. Who's to say your one buyer doesn't buy it across the way, maybe even slightly more expensive? Like there's a lot of luck for two people to cross paths. And one thing that's like a common theme amongst not all of, but part of my convention success is that I'm bringing inventory that I'm willing and able to take 70 to 80% buyouts on. When you can, when you can buy right enough, when you can grade, get the margin, when you have the ability to like sell to someone else who can then sell to someone else and make money, you're always going to find a way out of your product there. If you're solely, I know what I have, I'm only going to take 100%. Like if I did that for the whole convention, maybe I would have sold 25% of my stuff, which still would have been like a decent show. But I sold 95% of my stuff because I sold 25% of it. And then I just bulked out the rest of it to someone else so that I didn't have to set up on Sunday. I wanted to be able to sleep in a little bit. I wanted to be able to go to Wonders early. And I'm glad I went that route.
How was the number of people at a convention? Was it noticeably, was it the same? Was it noticeably slower than like New Jersey or the other ones you've been to this year? Because I'm wondering because like this is what is this? It's like the 6th convention that's been 2 weeks apart from each other. Because you had Kansas City, Dallas, New Jersey, Charlotte. So I guess like the 4th or 5th one.
It was packed. Saturday it was packed. Like I was vending, so I wasn't really going to the bathroom once. I had to swim through the crowd once or twice, but kind of like normal, like the long line situation that they need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
It took a while for people to filter in. Dealers get in at 8. I'm always set up by like 8:30, and VIP hour slow because some people filter through. Maybe a little bit of dealer to dealer sales or people looking at other people dealers booths. By 10:30, 11. You're really starting to fill in. And I have some pictures that I'll show. I'll have some pictures. At some point, I need to do like an Instagram story blast with a bunch of pictures from the weekend too. I'll probably just wait to do that Monday when my video goes live. But it was packed. Saturday, it was very, very packed. I think the Collecticon, however they advertise it, however they get the word out there, I think they always crush it attendance-wise. Not 75,000 people. They don't have the capacity for that anyways, but they crush it. Saturday afternoon towards the end, like if you're going with kids, if you're going just for a couple hours, if you don't want to wait in a line, I think the afternoons you can always just walk in and they're always thinned out a little bit. I was only there for a little bit Sunday. Maybe I was there between 10 and 1 approximately, and definitely not as busy. I think Sunday is relatively consistently less busy than Saturday. Mm-hmm. But I heard mixed things, and I think it's always going to come down to that. Like some people said they were kind of slacking compared to the prior year, and they thought they had similar inventory, similar goodness, similarly well priced, but they didn't do as well as last year. And then I talked to some people that did 2-3 times better than last year. But when you're talking about having like one table with 2 cases with 100 cards, like what are we talking? We're talking like the difference between selling 10, 20 specific certain cards, having that correct interaction, having that right consumer walk across your table with money in their pocket, wanting that card. When like 20 cards can make or break your weekend, there's going to be variance. That's just inherent to the whole process. Like it, I think people try to go in. I say good stuff priced well. It's a very vague thing, but there's no like secret sauce. There's no like perfect formula that will ever ensure 100% sellout. I guess the only thing on top of that is good stuff priced well, and then be willing to take 70 to 80% in a buyout. Because if your stuff is decent enough, like, I mean, Zach, Gem Mint was buying a bunch of stuff. He had a little crew there with him. He's doing big things with that. And Cloud was there, and a lot of the usual suspects were there, vendor to vendor, buying and selling. But yeah, you're never gonna set up an entire table and get 100% sell through to end consumers at 100%. It's just not gonna be a thing. I guess the American dream is dead. Don't get me going, Walrus. Oh man, but yeah, I heard mixed things. People had mixed inventories. People had like a lot of luck involved. And when you're on eBay, when you have a consumer base of millions of people, it's a very different situation. That person will find you, and when you're one of 700 vendors in a building, no one in there is going to see every card in every case. So there's some amount of luck that they actually put their eyes where your card is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So Armstrong said, I did all right. I was in raid section. I only do vintage. Only vended at 2 Collecticons, Orlando and Charlotte. Both seem very busy, especially on Saturday. Yeah, I think that's like a general rule of thumb. If I had to only pick one day to vend, I would always lean towards Saturday. Like say you split with a buddy, like, oh, hey, I'll vend the table one day. You vend it the other day. You would want to be on the Saturday half of that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So TCG House did apply, ended up going to TikTok and whatnot first.
Oh, don't say that.
Let's see. So I think we covered all that. I wanted to, anything else to add on that? I do have a couple questions that I saved in the chamber.
I think that was it for me. It was a really good time. I would definitely recommend Gen Con for people. Obviously it's not going to be an exclusive Pokemon trip. But if you have a group of friends that's into like board games, stuff like that, definitely recommend it. Really good area. Ton of different like bars, restaurants to go to. And the convention itself is just, it's wild just to walk around and see. We really didn't spend like a ton of time looking at the vendor booths. We were more so just like walking around. But yeah, if I go again, definitely like spend more time like playing different games, actually seeing what the different vendors have. I think I would definitely go again. Even without the eBay Live, it would be a little bit tougher. But even without the eBay Live, I think I would still go again because it was a lot of fun.
I was going to ask you that. Like, you didn't really do much aside from your live streams, and you were hanging out at the booth, like.
Yeah, we were mainly hanging out with them, talking with the eBay Live people. We walked around a little bit, not a ton.
Yeah,
we did get like walk around the whole convention center,
mm-hmm.
but if I go again, I would do more planning for it because there's a ton of like I said, small rooms that have like panels and stuff.
Yeah.
They get to buy tickets for in advance, and I did not know any of that. So I would definitely go into it with a lot more planning and actually like plan some stuff out, and as opposed to just winging it and going there.
Yeah, I wanted to see what was in that Lorcana room and that other game that they had. I wanted to go on there.
Now, yeah, that would have been cool. That would have been cool to see that.
That place is so big, though. Like, you think Collecticon and that entire space of Collecticon, that's just like the play tables at Gen Con. And then where people are set up. And then it's just, I don't know, it's just massive. It's insane.
You said Lorcana, and you said that other game they had. That other game Disney had? Are you talking?
Yeah, so Disney has some secondary card game.
Villainous? Is it?
I don't think it's called Villainous. I think it's...
Oh, okay. My wife and I have Villainous. We've played a few times.
I forget the name of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's another Disney type Lorcana type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Villainous is made by Ravensburger. I've played that a couple times. You play as like one of the villains, and I forget what the whole goal of the game is. I played it a couple times with my wife. It didn't really click as well as some of the other ones we've played, but I do have that one. I think Ravensburger is one of the big manufacturers in the game space. I'm sure Ravensburger was probably there.
Oh yeah, they were there.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so
the Lorcana Gen Con promos this year were definitely lackluster. Last year's were so much better. It was what were those things called? The eels from the Ursula's eels, whatever their names are.
The pin was the coolest.
Yeah, that was the promo this year. But they had Lorcana pins. Those actually look really good. Mm-hmm. And so they were handing those out, which was cool.
Pins. You need more pins?
Yes, can never have enough pins.
Oh man. So Walrus had a question for Chef, and then Nick and I can go too. Top 3 biggest people that have helped you in the hobby, and then he says, I guess Dan and Nick can answer too.
Definitely Nick, definitely Walrus, and the third is tough because they would have to be either Beerski Beerski Wonder or Weedle, helping me out with stuff. I don't know. It'd have to be between them, but definitely Nick and Walrus behind the scenes with above and beyond a lot of things. You know, they've been very awesome to me. Very, very awesome.
Glad to help you out, Chef.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it so much.
What about you, Nick?
So for me, it would be Gary as number 1, Rusty as number 2, and then Scott SM Pratt as number 3.
As far as like the early content and all that stuff, and
yeah, his early I don't know if I want his YouTube was decent, but his early Patreon, I actually found that very, very helpful. Like him just talking about like the Japanese market, and then people having people being able to ask questions and him answering those questions. Early on, I found that very helpful. I'm not part of it anymore, but early on, I found that very helpful. And then Rusty was more so like a role model, looking up to him as like the kind of business that I wanted at the time. That massive amount of singles business. And then Gary just helping with helping in the beginning, getting into grading, buying, helping me like buy big collections of WotC bulk. I was able to get so much WotC bulk off of Gary back in the day. But yeah, and then just him being around to help. I sent countless emails to him back in the day. Cause he was like I knew Gary before I knew Rusty. So he was like the only Pokemon seller back in 2009, 2010. Pokemon was very, very small. And so Gary and Ed were like the 2 biggest Pokemon sellers. And for whatever reason, I connected more with Gary than I did Ed. And so I would not constantly, but regularly email Gary, just asking him questions. And he would always get back to me with a good response. And I would buy a little bit from him, but it wasn't very much. And then it turned into me buying more and more from him. But in the beginning, it was me just asking him questions and him always giving me like a detailed response on how to do whatever.
Mine would have to be Nick. Nick would definitely be in there. One thing that Nick, thankfully, his first 12 people that he asked said no. Thankfully, so many people were willing to turn Nick down. But me, lucky number 13 on his list when he was working the way down the podcast co-host. That was big because that got me into the YouTube space. I kind of an honorable mention. So Nick will take like the main thing there being my first episode on my YouTube. What was this podcast itself? Now we're on episode what?
I feel bad not including you on my list.
No, you're good. I know my place. Number 13 is good enough. I mean, that's good enough. But honorable mentions, I'll say, Jake and Radar, Pokenomics and Pokemon Radar, because they kind of like broke the ice even before that. They reached out. Jake bringing me on to the Patreon he already had established, and we've had a great partnership with that. So I'm going to name like a lot of people. I'm kind of cheating. There's 3 people right there, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to say Dan, DJ Gigabyte, and Scott. I know that there's kind of like that nasty breakup and all the things, but UPCCC is where I started, and way back before. I mean, 7 years before I broke into the YouTube space, I found all the other people that were into Pokemon. That was where my first engagements happened. Over 5,000 posts later, a lot of my people that I am closest with in the hobby, we all go back to a common thread there. In 2014, it would have been like, I think Nick, you were on there at that time. That's where I first met and started talking to Gary and then years later, I would have picked up. Well, Zach would have been there too, and Scott and Dan, as I'd mentioned. Years later, James came in at one point. Jake came in at one point. Like so many people that I interact with most in the hobby, we have a common thread going back to UPCCC, E4, that whole thing. So I'll say Dan and Scott for that part. And then Rusty, as you mentioned, just following his content. I was in his Patreon for a while. I think it's kind of little known that he actually has a paywall of his own. But he that used to be very helpful. I think that's where I found out about Troll and Toad Evo. And that was a good run for me. I'm still kind of like hanging out in there. They still haven't fully booted me off, but I'm on my way out of that. I have Rusty to thank for turning me towards that service because that was huge. Learning how to like level up and kind of offload, outsource a lot of the labor without hiring a proper W-2 employee is great. But yeah, I as Brad says here, one Arnold Schwarzenegger quote that I really love is like, call me whatever you want, but don't call me a self-made man. Like I appreciate, as I said, I appreciate, I think John had me on first. And then Jake had me on his YouTube next. And then I formed the podcast with Nick. I don't know if either of those interviews led Nick to pushing me from the 20th spot up to the 13th spot. Maybe I would have been, maybe someone between 14 and 19 would have said yes, had he not saw me on John's or Jake's channels. So I'm thankful to Nick for shooting that shot 13 times and everyone else saying no and me saying yes. I'm thankful to early on, like James. I remember when James shared that stupid Oreo meme video that I made, doing the unboxing of like an Oreo thing, and I've had a lot of people help me along the way, and I always do my part to like try and give back. So don't call me a self-made man. I don't think anyone's calling me that anyways. But I really like that quote from him, and I do my part. I try to like be. I'm not vending a section. I'm not like leading a section this time in Chicago, but I've led many sections and I've tried to make it like a very welcoming space, letting people get in, get their first vending experience under their belt. And I'm happy to say that like quite a few people have had their first vending experience within my section, within Nick's section. Like I think we're doing a good job. Like gates open, come on in. Like let's all like, enjoy this space together. So I really like that question, but yeah, I got to catch up with chat. I'm sure there's a lot of memeing going on.
Walrus has some good ones.
Like Brad's there, but I'm going to grab the next question so you guys can start going on before, I think a follow-up to this question too was, who are the three biggest people that you thought would help you, but kind of left you in the dust? We don't have to go into that one. I'm sure that was more of a meme question, but here's a good one. Here's a good one from Wonder. Not people who left you behind, but like, what were three big mistakes that you made that you've like overcome or you're currently working through kind of in your little side hustle business, whatever you want to do? So kind of like the generic three mistakes looking back that you would have done differently if you could.
I got two of them. I'm trying to think of another one. I'm just so perfect. It's hard to think of mistakes. So number one for me would be waiting so long to get help. That was absurd how long I waited to get help. So getting help would be the first one. Because I was always very nervous about it not be like stuff not getting done the way I want it to get done. And I never wanted to give up that kind of control. But once I did and was able to get Walrus to help, it made my life so much easier. And I don't know if I would have ever done that without eBay Live either. Because at that point, it got to the point where before eBay Live, I was struggling to keep up with everything. But then once I started eBay Live, it was impossible for me to keep up with everything. So at that point, I didn't have a choice. I needed to. So that kind of led to that decision. But it's been such a good decision. I don't know how I could ever do it without having some kind of help. And then number two would be what was number two for me? I I forget what number 2 was. Dang it, I had a good one. I gotta think of number 2 again. Oh, taking on too many bulky projects. Like as much as I liked doing singles, it took up way too much time for not nearly as much money as I was making. Now again, that's still like connected with eBay Live, because before eBay Live, the singles were doing good. It was taking up a ton of time. It was a low amount of money, but it was worthwhile because that was my entire business. But then once I started eBay Live, I should have immediately given up singles, and I didn't do that for the first. It was like 3 months that I was doing the eBay Live and singles, and it was killing me.
I still remember when you like hit me with that data. That was not a surprise to hear. Like I forget the exact percentages, but you're like, I think it was pre or post PokeFlipz. You were talking about it, and you're like, probably Pareto principle coming in here. It's like 80% of my orders, 90% of my orders only account for like 10% of my revenue. Like, what am I doing here?
Exactly.
Oh man.
So those would be the 2 that came to mind when I thought of that one.
What about you, Chef?
I think I'm still too new and everything. If I had to say anything, it was in the beginning I was spending a ton of money on packs, but I think that's a lot of what people do in the beginning. And then not doing everything, not getting involved sooner. Because I thought about a Collecticon before last year's. Last year was my first one. And then the year before that, I was going to go and I chickened out and I didn't go. So maybe not starting sooner and getting in everything a little bit sooner. And then I had an opportunity to I was going to at one point jump on Evolving Skies. It was a little bit after it came out and I didn't. And I should have put some money in there to flip, but I didn't do that. But nothing crazy. I feel like right now it's kind of opposite. Like I'm very much, it seems like people are surprised that I say this, but I'm very much outside of my comfort zone every single step of the way. But I think keeping that going and moving forward with that and taking advantage of every opportunity that's come up, I think like that's helped me tremendously. So I just want to kind of keep on keeping on with that and just, I don't know, I just kind of trust the process right now, even though, I'm uncomfortable or I don't know the other side of it. I just kind of keep moving forward and trusting as I go. And then being surrounded by everybody really helps. And again, Nick and Walrus of like leaps and bounds have shown me a ton of stuff and taught me a lot of things and opened up a lot of opportunities to come here and go there and see and learn. It's been pretty incredible, all the stuff that they've helped me with. But yeah, I would say that.
I think this is a recurring topic we've probably had over like 20 of our 90 PokeFlipz episodes. So I'll go quick. Not setting up accounts properly, that old one that I always talk about, personal and business accounts intermingling. A lot of people at the outset, they don't know how deep they're going to ultimately get in it. So it's reasonable to not go like full-fledged, start out the right way. But I would encourage people to do so because it makes a big mess the longer you go without it. And then even though like I feel like I started early in a lot of ways, the one that Chef said, like not getting in earlier. I mean, I lurked on E4. I lurked on UPCC for my first event was 2018. I was lurking either sometime from 2013. I registered in 2014 and I waited quite a long time to get to my first event. I'm glad I did it then, but had I done it sooner, it's like how much deeper would I be? But yeah, that not that I regret it or whatever, but it's like I had the opportunity. I was talking to the people. I just never, I think it was like Anaheim. I think part of it was the worlds were really far. I don't remember exactly. I think 2016 might've been like Anaheim, 2017. Boston was in there though. I remember when Boston came up.
Was 15.
That was fit. I remember when Boston came up, like I felt way too new. If I had just like taken the leap and because Boston was drivable, it would have been like just a few years further, deeper friendships, more people earlier. Like it would have been good for everything. And then another one, Chef actually talked about this one too. And I had my stretch where I was definitely playing with a lot of house money and going to Vegas, Pokemon Saves the World. Partially, it's like I spent and lost way too much money. I could have just gone to the event without buying the packs, but like I had a stretch there. I made a YouTube video on it probably 2 years ago now. I had a stretch where I was giving a lot of money back, ripping a beta pack, ripping a base first pack, like gambling too much. So I try to be on the other side of that now. Good question though, Wonder. Thank you. Retro says there's been a lot of content around the idea of the train is leaving the station lately. Why do you guys think that is? And do you agree with the premise? What are your takes? Not just Dan's. I'll go last again, but I think two videos that come to mind recently. I am chronically online. I watch way too much content. I think PokeNE made one, and then James made one too, where they both just said like, get going. Yeah. What do you guys think on that?
Nate, you go first.
I don't understand. I kind of understand it, but at the same time, I think the hobby is so big that there's always going to be opportunity for people to do something. As long as you're willing to put in the work, you could do something that people aren't doing, or even just do something differently that people are already doing. And just have like a better brand. Well, not to get too far off, but I do kind of see where they're coming from, just because there is a lot more money in the hobby now. More bigger businesses are finally starting to realize that there is opportunity in Pokemon, and like live streaming in particular, because that's my biggest piece of the business now. Is all about having a following and growing your following, building that core audience, all that stuff. And you already have like these massive accounts on Whatnot, on TikTok, and all that stuff. So it is tougher for new people to come in and kind of take over that top spot on Whatnot, because the current top spots already have their processes so fine-tuned that they have multiple people streaming all at once. They have multiple streaming rooms. They have people packaging their orders. They know exactly what they're going to run. They have the inventory. They have the connections, all that stuff. So it makes it tougher for a new person to come in, but I think it is still possible, and it's always going to be possible for that to happen. Someone new to come in, and sure, you might not ever reach like how big some of these the biggest streamers are, but there's other ways that you can set yourself apart and build a decent audience and still be successful.
What do you think, Chef?
So I think the same. I think the hobby is so big that you can jump in as long as you do it right and do it well, that you can create a space for yourself. As far as I would almost attach that more to like the streaming world. I would say train leaving the station for streaming world, because it's like Nick just said, you're jumping into platforms, or the difference between eBay Live and Whatnot is pretty significant, because Whatnot's already been there and you have a lot of those top guys and you have so many people on there that it's an unrealistic expectation for those people to think that they're going to get as large as some of those bigger guys. They're so well established. And then you go to eBay Live where it's still, in the testing grounds and it hasn't gotten to that point. It would be a great advantage if you were on there right now and kind of getting yourself set up and established. I think that's pretty huge. But overall, I think no matter where you jump in, you can find success as long as you handle it and navigate the waters accordingly and and just do it better than the next guy. I always talk about like surrounding restaurants around me. It's not like I'm competing with them. It's all kind of stealing the foot traffic a little bit and doing like focusing on you and doing what you do better than the next guy. But I do think the hobby is huge. I think it's rapidly growing, and I think it'll be fine as long as you do you, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't fully agree with the premise. I think, like, I've been in it 10 years. I think starting today, you can wind up a lot quicker than you could have 10 years ago. That's just an obvious thing. The market's so much bigger, so many more ways to engage with it, so many more spaces. But I like the implication of the statement. So I kind of like, there's that old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. It's like, I like the implication of saying, hey, get in now, like join that Discord, start that Instagram, start that whatnot stream. Like look at Ray. Ray just started, he's employing his brother Dan, and within like a few weeks, he's wound up to a few thousand followers. So I don't necessarily agree in that. I think you could start 2 years from now, and I think you'll be just fine. I think you'll be able to, like, you hustle, you grind. I think you could grow, and I think you could find a lot of success. But I like the implication of saying you need to start today, go do it today, because, like, why delay? Do it now. Like I said, start that YouTube, post a couple videos, start that Discord, join that Discord server, whatever it may be. Start engaging now, because I think you're going to find that there are a lot of cool, like-minded people that have this shared passion. And yeah, so if those videos allow people to be pushed maybe a little bit sooner into going to their first event and engaging deeper, I'm all for that. I'm all for that outcome, is what I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say thank you to Java for gifting 5. I don't know who picked those up, but a couple people got some fresh emojis to use in the chat. Appreciate you, Java. Nice seeing you this past weekend.
Thank you, Java.
So Poke Family Gaming is going to World, Spectator, and Pokemon Center pop-up shop. Any tips on navigating as a first-timer? How to be best prepared to pick up as much as possible, and what to try and get? I'll go quickly first this time because I've been going last. Find out what's most limited. And there are usually certain items. I think like the skateboards in the past. It's usually fairly obvious, I think, what is going to happen, what's people are going to be after, especially after the first day. Certain things will restock, certain things won't. Like, it's not going to be a perfect system that you can implement. But a lot of times it's pretty apparent what people are chomping at the bit for, and you can probably like pay off part of your trip if you do it right at the Pokemon Center shop. As far as like if you're trying to buy people's Worlds cards, going to the trade events, going to the trade nights in the convention center. If you go into the physical World spot itself, all that stuff is actually kind of policed inconsistently, I think. But I've heard of people getting thrown out, getting sent out. You're not supposed to actually sell within Worlds. Like, there's no proper vendors. A lot of people will set up in a trade area. A lot of times what happens is it's like you just kind of like palm some money, and selling still happens, but they don't actually want that happening. So I guess be careful there. Not throwing money around, not counting hundreds on the table like you would at Collecticon. You got to do it a little bit more, a little less IG flex culture friendly in that space. So there's my quick tips. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would agree with you. When you go into the Pokemon Center, anything that has like a limit of 1, limit of 2, whatever limit is, buy it. But also keep in mind like shipping. Like if your plan is to buy and sell it, keep in mind, like, okay, how am I going to ship this? Because I got some like Pokemon Center playmats, and I am not set up to sell those. I don't have. I've got like gigantic boxes that I could put them in, and then put like a whole roll of bubble wrap to cover it. But I don't have a good sized box to mail those playmats. So just keep that in mind. Is how are you going to ship this? Because anything too big or too odd sized, maybe pass on, and then focus on like the sleeves, the deck boxes, stuff like that. And then yeah, just have fun. It's an awesome time. I don't know if you know anyone who's going with you. But Dan, I'm sure you're similar. My first Worlds was DC. and I knew of people from E4 talking to them, so I kind of had an idea of who was going to be there, but I had never met anyone in person. So I was really nervous going down, whether or not I was going to actually be able to hang out with anyone, or if it was just going to be just me being there alone. And the second I got there, everyone from like the E4 community was so welcoming. And I immediately had like a group of people to hang out with. And then me, Dan, and Ethan, 4th Star TCG, ended up spending a lot of time together that weekend, which was so much fun. But don't be nervous at all. Just have a really good time. It's an absolute blast. And I know nothing about the TCG, so I'm not interested in that side of things. But even not being super interested in the TCG side of things, Worlds is an awesome event.
If I had to say, I think last year everybody was going crazy about those jackets. So anything jackets, or like you said, anything limited. But I would crush the plushie scenario. I would go all in on some plushies over there. Some exclusive plushies, yes. I would bring as many of those back, or like T-shirts, or any of the merch kind of stuff, or anything you could throw into a slab. That's about it.
And one thing I had success with, like, I'm not tapped into the TCG scene, but I guess the main success that I had in DC specifically, I bought the trophy card from. So here's a tip: buy the trophy card from one guy, and then all his friends will sell you his world pack. So I realize that's not a super actionable thing, but if you're trying to get the packs, be cautious. One thing I'll say is, like, the last couple of years have been hyper competitive with that. The ground floor pricing has been really, really crazy. In past years, I would always just, like, I'd go to a trade net, I'd find one guy selling one, I'd be like, hey, $100, I'll buy your pack from you. And then I'd ask him, like, you're a player, I'm sure you probably know, like, texting his buddies. And I was able to buy, like, if you're after the player pack specifically, the backpacks, all their, like, merch, all their swag, if you're able to successfully buy from one, ask him to try to, like, put the feelers out what your cash offer is, and then maybe you'll get more coming from that person. If you had to purchase one of two types of slabs for holding and eventual selling, would you rather buy PSA 9 base set first edition holos or PSA 10 EX era slabs of popular Pokemon, Mewtwo, etc., and why? I would lean towards base first. One thing I like about PSA 9, there's plays there. There's very plus EV to go to a BGS 9.5. Very plus EV in certain instances to go to a CGC 10. I mean, base first edition Charizard, you got PSA 9 is 25 grand. CGC 10 is like 40-ish. So that's like a pretty big jump. So I like the 9s. And then that one factor that there's like more upside potentially if you can slab optimize. And then 2, I just like them a lot more too. Like base first, OG. That was always like my grail growing up. The true, like, early stuff, the rookies. Whereas the mid-era stuff, it's like, less demand. A lot of the PSA 10 from a lot of those middle eras, it's like you're gonna have print lines and they're not gonna really feel like true 10s. And what about you guys?
I would say first base as well. Everyone knows first base. Everyone knows Charizard. Whereas once you get into the EX era, those cards are very popular. They look really good, but it's not the first. It's not what Pokemon was at such a low point in the EX era. There's not a lot of like nostalgia for the EX era. EX era has a lot of really good cards, but it's just another era. What separates like Shinings, Crystals, EX era? What separates all those like really, really good types of cards? Whereas as first base, it's literally the first set that came out. I do agree with like Jake always used to talk about that, how being the first was important, and I do agree with him on that. I think that's what I would go with.
I think the base has I would say base too. I think the base has more awareness to it. Everybody knows the base. All the prices are there. It's pretty solidified. I don't think it's going anywhere. So I think it's a safe bet. Again, I don't think everybody is as familiar with the EX, and kind of like you said, it was a little bit out of lull. I personally like looking at the EX cards better because I've seen so much of the base. So it's like it's like been there, done that almost somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice looking at all the other stuff or things you're not as familiar with. So I do like that. But if I'm putting money into it, I would bet on base all day as far as that scenario.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of those, like it's not, there's not 20 PokeTubers talking about it every day. A lot of those things are seeing decent upticks. I know, like PSA 9 base first hollows. I just recently consigned a full set through Fanatics, and a lot of those are coming up. I don't know if they're coming off the bottoms. I don't know. They might have lower to go, but some of that stuff is definitely turning around to some extent. That said, I'm not actively investing in either of them. I don't have positions in either of them. I don't think at all. I think I have. No, I have a PSA 9 base first. Walrus joked about the Magneton. That's the one that I pulled, right? And then Nick, you pulled the Zapdos.
I was going to say, you better have at least one first base card.
So I do have a massive position of a pack pulled by myself, PSA 9 base first Magneton that will never be for sale unless things are really, really rough. If that one ever has to go for sale. But hot take, but Pokemon won't be in the top 5 best performing collectibles asset classes over the next 10 years. I don't think that's too hot of a take. I think there's probably stuff that doesn't even exist yet that will be in there, things that just come out of nowhere kind of. And given how big Pokemon is, like it's harder for it to 5x, 10x. Any given year in the stock market, there's probably not a single S&P 500 stock in like the top 100 stock gains. I mean, there's literally several thousands and thousands of stocks. Probably S&P 500 stocks, just given their size inherently, they can't 1000x. Whereas you've got all these other things, all these like small caps, all these not even yet publicly traded companies can literally just 1000x, 10,000x. And in any 10-year period, you're going to have some amount of that happen, right? So I think that's a correct take, but I don't think it's like going super out there.
I would agree. I think it's similar like what One Piece is doing right now. People are making a ton of money with that, but it's so much riskier than Pokemon. I'll take the less risk over higher reward.
Here we go. Mr. Kite wants to know, probably answered this a lot, but what was the feeling during the boom, watching prices rise? Were you guys just in chat like, yo, you guys seeing this? The boom was something else. I was selling $1,000 Eevees and Pikachus. I was selling $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 PSA 9 unlimited Charizards. I turned down like 50 grand on my PSA base 9 Charizard. Saying that is just like, my thinking was like, why am I going to take 50 on that when I can't replicate that, but I can just endlessly. I was grading at $75 a pop. Charmanders. You could open base set 2-player starter sets. You could open the Brushfire theme deck, and I was grading 4 Charmanders from those things and selling those at $500-$600 for the PSA 10 unlimited Charmander. It's like, instead of selling this for 50 grand, which I might have a hard time replacing, let me just sell 100 Charmanders. Like, what am I even talking about? What am I doing here? That Charizard specifically, I went on to sell 2 years later at like 25 grand or something like that on the way down. But like hindsight makes everything easy. It was stressful. It was a combination of like my life was actively changing. I had enough inventory before it that the amount of growth, everything that I owned saw was actually a life-changing amount of money. But it was also stressful in that that greed part of me down inside, turning down the offer on that card, wondering if I was going to like sell too early, miss the top, if things were going to change. Like, Nick, do you remember on E4, some of the people that came in, base set PSA 10 first edition cards will never be sub 10,000 again. XYZ will be $1 million card. Like there was a lot of stuff going on, and it was easy to get swept up in the bullishness. But I made it a point to sell the absolute worst, most replicable things as quickly as possible. I didn't care that I sold Eevees at $250 and then 400 and then 500 because I wasn't worried about selling too soon because I knew that any day I wanted to, I could just replicate that. Whereas some of them were a lot harder to replicate, and those are the ones that I held tighter. Hindsight, I should have sold almost everything a lot quicker, but like I did successfully hold on to like my trophies. I held on to longer. I got a lot more out of them. A lot of my Japanese stuff, I held on to a lot tighter, got a lot more out of them. But it was a wild and stressful time. Some parts of me are like, bring on another one because like one more 10 to 20x and I'm sitting real pretty now. The other part of me is like, man, I don't know if I need that much stress in my life again. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I did not like it. I did not like it at all. I was away for that whole thing. Luckily, when I got back, I was able to go full-time Pokemon because of it. So that was nice. But it was like relearning everything. It was so stressful because I was able to be on E4 and Facebook, but eBay did not work at all. So I wasn't able to see like what stuff was selling for very much. So when I got back home, I ended everything that was in my eBay store and basically relisted everything to kind of learn the new pricing. But I did not like it. I did not like it at all. It was nice because I was able to go full time because of that. That led me to go full time. But like Dan said, it was very stressful.
I was just the guy in the chat doing that. Is anybody else seeing it? I have zero position in it, and I'm just like, oh my god, and I have nobody to talk to about it. I'm just like looking around, like what is happening? Trying to jump in.
It was a wild time. Meme comment, but like there's actually truth there. All those studies out there about like the marginal utility of money, and a lot of times money doesn't change who people are. Like if people are unhappy and they come into a lot of money, short term they go and they blow down a bunch of stuff and short term happiness. But like a lot of times it doesn't truly change people. And maybe it magnifies what they are or were. But like yeah, I wanted to poke back at his little poke there. Here we go. If Mr. James is still listening, he's gonna really like this spot. So PKMN DK, Pokemon DK, on average, how much lower percentage-wise are your selling fees on eBay, ETC? How long did it take for you to get those lower fees? Is it true Dan is such a big banker, he has his own eBay rep on speed dial? So I do have people that I talk to at eBay. I do have people that I meet with monthly, I text with, things like that. But I'm paying the full shot. Maybe that will change someday, but as of right now, I've had this conversation with so many people. Some people who like crossed that bridge, made it to the other side, to the promised land that I've been kind of chasing for years now. I've been selling on eBay for 20 years. Last year I did 1.3 million. The year before that, I believe I did about 600, 700,000. And I've not yet gotten to salvation. I think there's a lot of people out there, Nick and myself. If you go back to episode 1 of this podcast, one universal goal like we had between us was getting over that hump, crossing that bridge, all these different analogies that I'm making, referring to like getting lower fees on eBay. It doesn't come easy. It doesn't come easy. It takes a lot. I will use Mr. James, Mr. Z&G Emporium as a demonstrating what it could potentially be. And I'm not using any insider info that I've gotten from him, no disclosures made by him, nothing like that. But publicly looking, go to his website, zngemporium.com. You can consign a $1,000 card for a 7% fee. If I sell a $1,000 card in my eBay account right now, if Nick sells a $1,000 card on his eBay account right now, we pay 12%. We can't do that. So I'm not saying that like James has told me. James has something, right? I mean, it's very simple logic. James has something. Probstein, DC Sports, a lot of these different consignment operations, they clearly have something. We don't know exactly what they have, but we know that they're not like a charity. We know that they're making some amount of money. It wouldn't be a massive leap to think maybe they have 6%. Maybe someone that's charging 7 might have 6%. That's not like a massive leap. Maybe it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't think so. But it takes a lot more than you realize. And I think a lot of people spend a lot of time and spend a lot of energy. I am / was / might continue to be one of these people. But building your own account, building your own brand, when it's like, what cost is that coming at? Like say you have a $2,000 card and you're going to sell it yourself. You're going to pay a 12% fee. You're going to pay $240. That's $100 more expensive than selling it through James. That's $100 more expensive selling it through Probstein, DC Sports. So you really, and if those are going to add up to where you're going to do 2 million on your own, 3 million on your own to get that contracted rate, you really need to think of what the true cost of seeking that is. I know a lot of people who were up around the vicinity within the ballpark of like where I am. And I know some people that have made a full pivot over to using my Fanatics consignment service, using James eBay consignment service, using DC Sports Probstein, using PSA Vault, kind of abandoning building up their own account because the cost with which you have to like overcome to get there is immense. And again, this is not something that like not information that was confided with like to me. This is publicly stated by James in his videos, in his Instagram. He sold like $5 million last year. So like that's what you got to do. I mean, I sold 1.3 and I'm here. He sold 5 and he's there. So like you can kind of get an idea. And one thing I love about this space, like shout out to James, shout out to myself. Brad's going to love that one. Walrus is going to love that one. The transparency in the hobby. 10 years ago, I had no clue that any of these deals were going on. I had no way to like kind of estimate what it would have taken to get one, what it would have taken, what you would have gotten out of it if you did get one. I think it's great. There's so many people in the space that are so forthcoming with information, so transparent with information that you can kind of like see and follow, and you can kind of like run some numbers on how plausible is this for me to get over that hump and what will it take. So like, I think, I guess I don't want to say any like privileged information, but there's obviously other people in the space that have deals and that have sold for longer periods of time. But I really like that all the information's out there. So if you're thinking you're gonna pump your account up to like 200,000 in annual sales and eBay's just gonna like unlock to 4%, 5% fees, maybe they just don't like me. Maybe that will happen, but has not been my experience. And maybe Nick can share some more insight there.
No, you covered that one. I agree with what you said. It didn't happen for me either. I just broke 1 million last year, and then right around 6-7 the year before that. So yeah, did not happen.
I'm not even eligible for this question, so pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chef comes in and says he has lower fees.
Yeah.
I've had 3% for 3 years. I don't know what you guys are doing. Oh man. But yeah, and then there are certain things I think if you do get over that hump, I think there are different agreements, sometimes exclusivity. Like there are different considerations to take into account. It is a major business decision if you want to hitch your wagon fully towards one business, and the amount of money in the space, the amount of titans just buying out, gobbling up other platforms. I mean, it's pretty wild right now in the space. It's crazy. I've made videos pretty recently talking about how I'm navigating the whole platform thing, because I'm still up in the air on a lot of it where I'm going to go. I have a live portion that I am looking to do later this year. I don't know exactly when, but like Whatnot is there, eBay Live is there, Fanatics Live is there, Drip, TikTok, doing a YouTube.
Drip.
I'm not going to, but like I'm just stating all the options. YouTube with Shopify. There are so many options out there. I think all of them have their pros and cons. Doing your own thing, building your own brand, building your own account has its pros and cons. But like information, it isn't good or bad. Going back to like when we talked about the scanning thing, it just is. Like I think the more people having more information, that's just beneficial. Like if you can save yourself a year of grinding and busting your butt, like thinking $1 million or $500,000 is going to do something. If you can hear today from people that can tell you that 500,000, $1 million didn't do anything, I think that's useful information. However you use it, whether you choose that to like, well, I'm going to do double that, triple that. I'm going to get where Dan and Nick haven't yet gone, or maybe we'll never get. or like I'm going to reevaluate and I'm going to look into these other options. And just having that information is massive. So shout out to us, Nick. Shout out to us for being so willing to share. Oh man, I know Brad loves that. Oh god,
Yikes.
But and one common thing in the space too, again, back when I started, I bought my first booster case of Phantom Forces. I think it was called Potomac. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Potomac. Potomac Distribution. Let me see if it's still a website. But before I got into distribution, I bought my first website from my first case. It is still a website. It has distribution in the name, but it's not like a distributor where you need all the proper forms and stuff. I paid like $600, $610, $620, somewhere in there for a Phantom Forces case. Like many people in the space, I assumed wholesale Pokemon was like $50 a box, $60 a box. I think it's so common in the space that people think that they like they really romanticize what being in business in this space is. Like they assume brick and mortar. Shout out to Mason Cardinal Game. They assume he's just like a deca millionaire. Man owns 2 stores. He's buying all his boxes at $50 a box. He's making money left and right, hand over fist. I think a lot of people assume the fees are way smaller and the costs are way smaller and the profits are way higher. But that is not the case. Like it takes a lot more to unlock the real big deals. And I've heard I've had some deals with different companies, and I've heard some deals with different companies. The grading companies, like the volumes you need to have, the distributors, like P Football Pete is not paying $50 a Pokemon booster box. He's paying less than Nick and I am. I mean, I'm paying anywhere between 90 and 95, but I promise you he's not paying 50. No one is.
No.
But it's a very common misconception. It's a very common, like, people just doing the calculus wrong, doing the math wrong. Like, oh man, everyone's making money like crazy. And then if they dive into it, they might be blindsided by the fact that, like, oh man, I'm paying a higher fee than I would have thought. And it's really harder to like make money after all these things. I'll let someone else go first because I'm getting a little bit behind the chat and I have to find more questions. So what is the dream scenario for your business to be in the next year?
You want to go?
Sure. I want to be streaming, and I want to be consistent and building off of that. So overall, I would say consistency, and then I just want to find my groove, find my lane, and build off of that. And then I do want to start seeing how I can execute some YouTube content. So I kind of want to do that idea we were kicking around and talking about. I want to do something like that, and then I want to be consistently streaming and running cards and kind of have all those kinks worked out and just in a groove and have that my focus and be like a well-oiled machine and just have that unlock. That's where I want to be for sure, at least for right now.
There we go.
Yeah.
YouTube coming soon.
Yeah, I want to do the thing where I get one of you guys to come out, or I come to you, and then I want to show you, what's your favorite thing to eat, or what's one thing you've always wanted to learn to cook, and then do that with you, talk about it, learn it, cook, and then eat it together and talk Pokemon kind of in and out and afterwards and throughout. But I want to do like the full circle. We'll go get the stuff, we'll go make the item and talk Pokemon and kind of showcase that food and Pokemon, kind of blend the two. I want to do that. And then I want to do it kind of like a season thing. So I'm not attached to it where I got to do it every week or whatever, like maybe 12 episodes, 1 per month, and do a season. Hey, this is this year and this year. And do it kind of like that. That way I can also have a realistic expectation as far as that and be consistent as far as that. But yeah, overall consistency. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Love the consistency.
Yeah.
I think that would be a cool idea.
Ooh, I want to do it so bad, dude.
Did you guys talk about that at Gen Con, or was that just from Sunday Night at Wonders?
No, that started at Bierski's house in Jersey. Really, Benji opened that up. Benji, shout out to Benji. He's the one who kind of opened that up. And then everybody chiming in, and that's kind of how the wheels were turning. And then it was like, oh, this is it. this is kind of the one, Yeah.
That would be awesome if I could get a chef on site for some brisket, maybe a tomahawk steak, talk Pokemon. That would be
butcher a whole bunch of different cuts. Yeah.
So
much fun, dude.
Hey, I'll make sure my chest freezer is empty. Maybe we just get a half side of beef and we go to town.
We can start filling it up.
It'll have to be a winter episode. I'll do up the whole garage just like Dexter. I'll do up.
Yeah. Break out the saws.
Yeah. Oh man, that'd be awesome.
Oh god.
What about you, Nick?
Me sitting back in a lazy boy, drinking some drinks while Walrus does everything for me.
Let me do Nick's. I know Nick. So anyone who's watched The Matrix, probably everyone in here, Nick wants to lay back. He wants to plug in to eBay Live 24/7, 365. That is where he wants to be in a year. eBay, you got to make it happen. Maybe that's what they teased him on at Gen Con. Maybe that's coming. But I know that's what Nick wants.
There we go. Yeah, no, just the more eBay lives, growing that, keep doing that and proving that. That's it. That's for me for next year. Okay. I'm happy with where I'm at. I'm happy doing what I'm doing, but there are thoughts that there are other things that I've been thinking about working on in the background, and who knows whether they'll come to fruition or not. But I like the way that I'm interacting with the space. If I could just be doing that more refined, more efficient, all that stuff, that would be great. But I guess the one main thing that I've not yet done that I almost certainly will have in the next year is have a decent little KetchumAllCollectibles stream team going. I know people are getting plucked left and right like crazy. You got Weedle picking up some free agents. You got Nick refusing to pick up anybody, but you got Ray doing his thing.
Picking up Bierski.
Yeah. I almost went to say it. I'm like, this isn't, because I heard it a few hours beforehand. Ray actually texted me if I had any.
Someone didn't watch the Box Nostalgia podcast.
I don't know. I did, but I knew before that because I already had a box in the mail going to Bierski for his World's event break. I almost started to say it. I'm like, wait, this definitely went public already, right? But yeah, the free agents are getting picked off left and right, and I might have to get my bids out there soon before all the talent gets pulled off the market. But we'll see. I will definitely have something a year from now. I can confidently say that. I know I've been kind of dragging my feet for most of this year, talking about whether it's going to be summer or sometime in the fall before the new year. There will be something running. Dan capping every time I try and grow the business. He says enough. Enough is definitely a thing. More versus enough. That whole debate. There is such a thing as enough, but in some ways I'm there, but in other ways I feel like I could do enough better, if that makes sense. And maybe I could just interact with different. One thing we didn't have 10 years ago that we do have now, as things are just so much bigger. Like it's getting to the point where like there are people that are just full-time employed in the cardboard space more frequently. Nick hired Walrus and he's got a full-time job. There are more opportunities than ever for people wanting to be in this space, and maybe someday I'm creating jobs like that to some extent. Maybe someday I'm partaking in a job like that to some extent. I don't really know, but like the opportunities are out there. There's a lot of opportunities, which is
not
awesome.
just 1099 employees, man. You're actually talking about creating jobs now.
Who knows? Who knows? There's a lot of possibilities. We got Dren on the wrong account, but they'll be back.
Wait, I was wondering who is Dren. I was wondering that. I was going to ask that. I had a follow-up question for you, Chef. Yeah. Why live streaming as opposed to just like listing and selling for you? Why do you prefer live streaming as opposed to?
For me, it's fun, but I like the consistent cash flow. I like the getting and selling. I don't like to sit on them. And it drives me crazy when I have things listed and they just chill. So I like the churn and burn. And also I relate everything to the restaurant stuff. Right. So it's like getting tickets and orders, like a constant flow of in and out, and kind of, I guess that, I don't know. I just like that business model. I like just the flow. I like the flow through a lot. And then it's very fun engaging with the chat. It's very fun to do it. It's more entertaining than just to list and go. But I do like the listing for like a passive income is nice, because when I'm at work and it's like change, you know, the little eBay notification, it's like, it's nice looking down and being at work and making the sales. It's really nice. But I don't think realistically, I don't think I can. Well, maybe I could build the listings up that much, but I don't know. I just like the consistent flow through of money, buying and selling, like immediate. You don't have to wait. So
yeah,
and I'm very like antsy. I'm always like moving around and on the go, you know. So it just feels better to me doing it like that. But I do think there's you know, in the live streams, there's like a price point you got to either build up to or kind of cap yourself out. So I like having the listings for those, the higher end stuff, and that's nice to have that outlet. But yeah, I like the flow. How about you? You do both. So your eBay page is solidified, and then you do the streaming, right?
Yeah. I'm the same way. I like it's funny because we talked about this a long time ago when it changed. Like how we used to buy it now, set it and forget it until someone buys it. And I'm starting to see the perks of not making as much per card, but selling a lot more. And I like the idea of the churning and burning type of thing.
Yeah.
Getting stuff in, selling it right away, moving on to the next thing. Really like the idea of that.
It's nice.
Yes, that is very nice.
Keeps it exciting. New cards in your hand. You get to see a lot of cool things. There's a lot of cards, like even the little bit of streaming that I've done that I've touched or seen or been around that I probably would have never touched or seen or been around from not doing that or not being around that. So that's cool too. You get to see
exactly.
Or like the pack rips when you rip like the chase card for somebody. That's so awesome. Yeah, I have not done that yet, but that's so awesome.
It'll happen.
I could do that.
And Nick, on that front, like probably going back over our 3 years, there's been a lot of conversation about buy it now versus auction, and I definitely was a lot more like firmly in the buy it now camp, but a lot of that was just guided by the time that we were born into the space. 2014 to 2020, 2014 to 2021 even, you had a tailwind, some up, some down as always, but you were treated better for holding a lot of stuff. And so our first several years experience in the hobby, we had a lot of positive reinforcement for that. And then once the boom kind of peaked and once things started falling, the negative reinforcement started coming through more. And it's like, man, I should have hindsight is an easy thing to work with. But like the past 3 years, generally speaking, you've been punished more. Not punished in the true sense of the word. Like there's still a lot of lack of punishment going around, but definitely a very different thing from our first several years. So when we just operated in that fashion and were treated so well and getting so many positive reinforcements from it, because you'd list a card kind of high and eventually the market would just get there, that it makes sense why it still kind of lingers. But I've moved more. I think the market has required more with certain kinds of plays, certain kinds of cards. You're going to do a lot better. And some of it's the volume thing too. When we were smaller back then, it was easier to do it. We both had our own main thing. It was our side thing. So a combination of the markets changing and then the way we interacted in the markets, going from part-time to full-time, I think has led us to the more like churn and burn, flow things through quicker. But that said, like I still do. And I think I always will have some amount of buy it nows as well.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect combo.
Yeah.
Auctions on the majority, and then buy it now on like the more expensive niche-y type stuff.
Dan can't relate hearing Chef and Nick talk about working. Oh man, we got a lot of questions backing up. So Walrus wants to know, Evolving Skies reprint, yes or no?
Oh God.
Quick one word.
No.
No.
No box, yes packs. That's what I'm gonna say. More than one word, sorry. Dan Felix wants to know, how often do you find yourself redesigning / improving your physical eBay shop selling setup? I know how important it is to have your supplies in certain areas, picture taking setup, order packing, etc. Me personally, it's definitely developed over the years. Like the one time it changed the most was when I moved. I moved from one house to the other, so it was just a completely new setup, completely new operation. But there are minor refinements here and there. I know Retro's probably still here hanging out. Daily Refinement and Tekken Sports are two great guys to follow as far as like you're photographing setup and minimizing all the space, 5S'ing your area, like all those good things. Some things I can take from my engineering background. But continual improvement should always be a thing. I still have a ways to go. I think I still have a ways to go in a lot of areas, tidying things up and making things more efficient. But yeah, it's just an ongoing process. What about you guys?
Yeah, I would say I like my setup right now. I could definitely use a little bit more space. But I make it work. And overall I think it's really good. There's small adjustments that I probably should make. But I think it's like 90% there. And like you said, Dan, there's always going to be something that you can do differently, that you should do differently, that you just don't get to. But yeah, there was a point for a while there that I was constantly rearranging stuff. Whether it's just to put all the packaging supplies in one area, to kind of like create a good flow. Have everything in certain areas. So that way I'm grabbing a card, I'm putting on a table next to the packaging supplies, I print the label, I put it into the bubble mailer, and then I put the label on it. To make that like that whole process like flow easily is important. So that's the biggest thing for me is like the packaging afterwards. So once you get a good setup, just leave it like that.
I have to add, I need another shelf. I had a shipping table, but my daughter took it for a craft table now, and so it's hers. There's no getting that back right now. She uses it every day. So, but yeah, I need another table. But as far as like a flow, even the streaming stuff, I think I got like a little bit of a system down, and I like that. I'm very good about streamlining something or like an assembly line. It's kind of setting up like a station in the kitchen and how you're going to work, or like a saute station specifically, how you're going to grab your stuff, go and kind of work. It's similar to that for me. So I like to just have a flow through the room where I'm starting on one end and going to the other. But I'm chef life, right? So like everything has its place. So everything is like in a certain place. It's there every single time. And right now where I have it, it's not going anywhere unless I'm getting bigger things like the shelving and like another packing table. But I want to add like cubbies and shelves. I want to make it to where I can kind of grab, go and move on. And so it's just a little bit more equipment, but I think I'm halfway there, if not more, for all that.
And having the background of the restaurant thing, so many more people in one space, so many more moving parts. Yeah. A lot of it is probably very simple to manage the flow, right? Correct. You don't got to worry about the raw foods and the finished foods and the dishwater. Like you don't have all these things colliding. You don't have not all the oversight either. You don't have the health department coming through and making sure your station's
no smoke in my eye.
Very easy change from the chef life, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'd rather a paper cut than a chef knife cut, right?
Yeah. And then he also asked shop tour. So I've done a video or two showing my space, how I store my inventory, all that. I'm sure I'll do more down the line. Nick has fully retired from YouTube for eBay Live. Maybe he'll pan around the room an hour into an eBay Live. Maybe you'll get that. But Chef, if you do go with the YouTube, will it solely be longer form content, flying around the country, making food, talking Pokemon, or will you do some like little day in the life? Here's my setup. Here's how I pack. Will you do those too?
I want to do shorts also, but I want to do. I want to kind of branch outside of like the room. But the idea for shorts is I want to talk to people who work in restaurants too, and kind of, hey, real quick, what's one thing you love about restaurant life? Okay, what's one thing you don't like about restaurant life? Okay, let's rip open this pack real quick. You know, pack is yours, like a real quick 1, 2, boom, 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 or what's your favorite Pokemon? Here you go, yada, 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 and go. But I do want to highlight, you know, a restaurant or where they work or what station they work, or like talk about common issues and within restaurants, and maybe I can like real quick talk them through it or give them some advice on something, and do some short form content like that. And then also like, yeah, a little bit of day in the life, what I'm doing right now, or, you know, what's in this room, or little tours here and there, or, you know, showing off some kitchens or things like that. But I do want to do short form as far as that, but the main focus be like that long form content, cooking and talking Pokemon.
I think that'd be cool.
If anyone out there is looking for employees, Brad is available for hire. He doesn't want to put in any work, but he wants that money, just like how Dan does it. So Brad is bringing nothing to the table, but he wants money. I mean, I have inventory. I have some things going on, but Brad's trying to skip to the front of the line and get a cushy job. Maybe it'll pan out. We'll see. Ernesto says, I think Dan would run a better restaurant than Chef because he barbecued twice at home. I never could or would want to run a restaurant. I definitely would not be capable. Though I think I can work around a grill. Corn is not my corn after several IPAs is not my forte.
Like, did you remember the corn?
I was trying to play a little bit of washer toss. I was trying to do a lot of things, and the corn was very much on the back burner.
Yeah. What is this corn? What is this corn story?
They burned the heck out of this corn.
me and Bierski were in charge of grilling the corn for the
2 men,
side dish.
1 task.
See, sometimes when you have too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to go do this thing because Bierski's going to have it and he's going to do his thing. Oh, Dan's going to have it. And then there was a couple times that the baton was not properly passed and things slipped through the cracks. I used 90 corn cobs. Corn cobs may have fallen to the ground a time or two, but we did our best, and our best was barely good enough. So.
We salvaged
that
it.
said, you took what we did and that turned into a very, very good very good dish. So props to Chef for that. We got a good question backlog here. Keep the questions flowing. We did just hit 2 hours in. Usually we go about 3 hours with these. Chef, if at any point you have to tap out earlier, just let us know. But the plan will be tentatively about another hour till about 7 Eastern we'll go. So UAP wants to know, on your investment palette, this must be targeted towards me, would you take Diamond and Pearl packs or Heart Gold Soul Silver if you had to choose? I like every era. I like that every era brought something different, brought something unique to the place. My real answer would be like, I wouldn't want either if I had to take them at today's prices. But I guess to the spirit of the question, I like getting in more at the ground floor, 80, 90, $100 a box, and then waiting for that leg up to $200, $300, $400 a box and then selling, not getting in at thousands and trying to sell for like when they're more. But overall, Diamond and Pearl era or Heart Gold Soul Silver era? I don't know if you can count. Can you lump in Call Legends with the Heart Gold Soul Silver era? I guess that box is already so expensive. Those packs are already so expensive.
Small palette if you're talking those kinds.
Yeah, but overall, I lean the Legends. I'm so torn on. Like, I really like the idea. I like how they were unique, but it is weird. It is weird that when you're opening them, the opening experience, you're only pulling half a card, right? I like when you can put them together and you make that bigger artwork. I think the legends are a cool concept, but it's kind of weird from an opening perspective. Level X's, I think they lag behind primes. Nothing like the EXs, the gold stars.
Wait, you said Level X's lag behind primes?
No, Level X's and primes, like together.
Oh.
Like I'm talking Diamond and Pearl era. I think I would lean Heart Gold Soul Silver era, because I almost feel like the Diamond and Pearl is already appreciated a bunch more. I don't know the box prices. I don't know the pack prices off the top of my head, but I feel like they're already more appreciated. I could be wrong there though.
I would be the same. I don't like Diamond and Pearl. Heart Gold Soul Silver does have some cool cards.
A lot of cool hollows and stuff too. I mean, just like every era, they get way overlooked. But like, there's a lot of good hollows. There's a lot of good random, common, uncommon cards here and there, even in sets today. I'm one who like doesn't put together the binders anymore. Doesn't appreciate them as much as I should. But I am a little bit more now that my daughter are putting together binders. I'm seeing a little bit more some of the artworks that I would have glossed over so much quicker in the past.
Yeah.
What about you, Chef? Diamond and Pearl era or Heart Gold Soul Silver era?
Heart Gold Soul Silver era, for sure. But my investment talent would be in meat anyway.
There we go. Bullish on brisket.
Yeah.
Ernesto wants to know, how do people fasting affect your business?
It actually would help, because you know how many tables I get where it's like, oh, I just ended my fast and I'm here, and they go crazy and they only eat this much anyway. But
breaking their fast with there you go.
You'd be surprised how many diners or like bodybuilders after a show or something will come in there and crush it.
Here's a really good one that I'm interested. I'll need to think of my answer as I work through this backlog of chat. Whoever wants to start. Timmy wants to know. So what is something in the moral gray area that like the general consensus of the hobby is fine with it, but you're not personally fine with it? So like, what is semi-widely accepted that rubs you the wrong way, if that makes sense? I'm going to go find more questions and I'll answer last.
I don't like the cleaning cards and all that. I think there's a decent amount of people who think or are okay with that. I don't like modifying or touching them at all. I like to kind of stay away from that. But I think there's a large group who don't see the damage in that, and that kind of rubs me the wrong way, pun intended, I guess. But I would say that the most. I don't like reseals, like any of that kind of. I don't know. I don't like that. What about you?
You didn't have a long enough answer, Chef.
No, I never did. I know.
I'm hoping Nick's is longer here.
Yeah, very direct.
I think that's more of the majority opinion, but it is definitely a little hot button. Like there's. Yeah. I guess the people who are fine with it and the people who are doing it are generally just quieter too. Mm-hmm. Like, I wouldn't think it's a silent majority type situation, but there's probably more than you realize that are just cool with it, doing it behind the scenes. The grading companies it's sliding through them, so people are just going with it. But I'm on the same side with you on that. We had that a few months ago. That was the hot topic a few months ago.
Yes, very, very hot topic. I'm actually gonna say cracking slabs.
Yeah, that was gonna be the other one. Yeah,
I think that's a good one, because I think that's commonly done. And I won't say I don't do it. I do it as well, but I don't do it nearly as often as other people do it. Honestly, I cracked like 4 slabs for my Gen Con stream. And that was the most slabs I've cracked in years and years and years. But yeah, I don't like the idea of doing that, and part of it's because I feel a little deceitful, being able to crack an 8 and call it near mint.
You're downplaying it. It's near mint to mint. right?
That is true. That is true. But then you're gonna get people thinking, oh, this looks like a 9. Oh, this could be a 10.
Yeah.
But then also, like I almost think like there's gotta be people out there who prefer it in a slab than raw. So even if it is like an 8, there's gonna be someone out there that wants it in the slab than just a raw binder copy. But it's almost so hard because pricing does show that the 8 is less than raw. I don't know. It's just something that's so hard for me to get over.
Yeah.
Oof, this is a tough one. Man, morally gray area. I'm usually front running, and this is gonna sound bad maybe, but like I'm usually more okay with some of the things that people are like questionable on, like pack weighing. I remember 10 years ago, I was one of the ones that like we should not try to put this back in the box. We should let this out there. We should let people know that this is a thing. And I was one of the ones when it wasn't fully allowed or desired. And I speculate some amount of people didn't want that getting out because they were utilizing that to their own benefit. Same thing with the CT scanning. It's like, let the information get out there. It's kind of, I'd rather it not be a thing. If I could go back and I could make Pokemon, like design these products in a way that would just be pure, true, like 1 in 45 chance to pull Charizard, pure, true, no way to game the system, that would be better. I wish that would be a thing, but the fact is it's not. So when these things come out, like I'd rather the information just spread quicker. But like the cracking thing, I've never been one to crack a card more than once. I've cracked quite a few cards once, and I got punished the last time I did it really big. So I probably won't be doing it anytime soon. But morally gray, I guess one thing that I'll talk about, and I've talked about this before in a video, and I've sold in this way before. I'm not a big fan of like the mystery products. There's already enough gambling inherent to the hobby. I'm not a big fan of the mystery products, and I could make one where you have this, as long as you're doing them true, like it's all fine. I'm not saying you're bad for doing it, but I'm just not, I'm never going to do one that way, where like you could get this $1,000 item. On average, you're just going to get this. Like I always sold, you're going to get $25 plus or minus $5. You're not going to win big. You're not going to lose big. You're just going to get around here. When you start putting in 1 in 100, we'll get this. 1 in 10, we'll get that. It's like there's already enough gambling here. We're really pushing it. We're really pushing it on what we should be doing maybe. But that said, as long as it's all done transparently, honestly, as long as you're giving those true odds, it's like I'm not one to say you shouldn't be doing it. You can't do that because there's a consumer for it. Foundational to the hobby is gambling. So people love their layered gambling. Let them have it, I guess. I'm just not going to be the one to give it to them. I will give you, though, or at least I used to give you, I'm not going to be giving it to you anymore, the chance to open a Charizard for $700. I used to do that. That was like the primary level Pokemon sanctioned gambling. But all these tiers somewhere, I need to CT scan it, but somewhere I have that Omega Mystery Pack that unfortunately won't include that Charizard because that got pulled. I don't know where I put that.
Probably in the trash bin.
Maybe with its family. But I actually don't have any active on my eBay right now. A lot of things with eBay. I guess another thing too, like I actively do it. I'm not a huge fan of it. I wish it wasn't that way. But years ago on eBay, I've been on eBay for 20 years. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, when I was in Pokemon primarily, you'd just sort by low list, and you'd list as the lowest price, minus $1. You'd undercut people. It was better for the consumer. When someone searched for a PSA 9 base unlimited Charizard, the best matches would be the cheapest ones that were titled well. These days, it's a pay-to-play game. I play it. I don't make the rules. I just play by them. It doesn't feel that great. Like it works for me. I pay a 5% premium on my selling fees, and I sell my cards for a 15% premium over market. So I partake in it, but I don't feel great about it. It's just the game it's the rules that were set out for it. So I'm going to play by the rules. I don't think I'm clearly not morally above doing that, but And again, not like I'm saying I'm morally above creating a booster, a mystery booster product with like additional chase. I don't want to go that route, because one reason that I was into weighing earlier, some people were doing it and not disclosing it. I always thought it was the most transparent way to transact. It's like, hey, you're going to get 1 out of 15 chance at any of these hollows. I guarantee you a hollow, money back. If not, the best way to just give the gamblers what they want and deliver that directly to them, right? And I've been that consumer before. But once you start doing like the 1 out of 100 will have this, 1 out of 50 will have that, now there's an additional layer of trust that I don't want you to have with me. Like I just want to sell you a specific product. With CT scanning, I can't sell the heavy pack anymore because the question will always be there. I will know what I will do. I will know that I will not take advantage of trust, but I don't want people to have that belief in me. And I don't want to leave the opportunity for every time a polyrath gets pulled, it's like, oh, well, Dan paid $15 to scan that one.
Do you think there will be with the scanning, like, you guys do a box break and you buy a pack and then it'll be like, hey, we'll weigh this pack out. Will it get to the point where it's like, hey, we know what's in this pack. Do you want to know after you buy it? Something like that scenario.
Like scanning a whole box beforehand and just mapping the whole thing out. And
let them buy it. And then it's like, hey, this one, we know what's inside. Do you want to ship?
I could see something like that happening, and it makes it interesting. It's like, what happens if you go into a base box break? Like, say a base box is 14 grand. That's approximately what they are. Someone might sell unweighed packs. Let me see. Approximately like 450. Make about $1,000 on the box. Maybe more than that. 450, 500 for true unweighed packs. If you know ahead of time that it's a 1 Charizard box and you're going to have a 1 out of 36, say they do some randomization, whatever it may be, it's just so gameable. I guess if they're not doing the randomization, like in Vegas, the Pokemon Saves the World, they randomize the packs. They put the balls into the thing. They spawn them somewhere on my desk next to me. I have the ball, actually. I have the ball still that my number got picked, and those were my packs. There would be ways to ensure randomization. But if you are saying like, hey, do you want to know what's in your pack? Clearly they know that. They could feed that information to people out in the audience, in the consumer base, and they could have people intentionally winning those packs that have the hitters. So it's just not good. I don't like it overall, but I don't like it, but it exists. It just is, and this is the new world we have to navigate with it. So my response to this new world is I'm stepping out of it. I don't want to play anymore. I am uncomfortable playing in this space, the heavy vintage box pack area. Yeah. So that's what I've done with the information.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think I can see that becoming a thing on like Whatnot for sure. Yeah. I don't like the idea of it, but I can see it happening. I can see it happening.
Walrus wants to know, Chef, when will you start collecting?
I want to collect so bad. I can't. I'm not doing any collecting right now. I want to so bad. I think I put a poll up for that special delivery Pikachu that hit a 10. I was thinking about trading it for a 2002 McDonald's Pika PSA 10 because I want that card really bad. But everything's focused on the inventory right now. I need inventory so bad.
Don't do it.
I'm not. I decided I need to move. I need all the inventory I can get right now.
Yes.
So I'm focused on that. No collecting.
Don't get high in your own supply. It is tough. Let's see. So Timmy, what is your hypothesis for why a lot of modern continues to stonk while vintage prize cards continue to slide? I guess my question back would be, which vintage prize cards are you talking about? Because it's a very diverse market. There's a lot of stuff out there. A lot of the PSA 9 and some 10 base first edition, a lot of the gold stars, like there are certain things ticking up. They're doing it very quietly relative to all the noise in the space of like ultra modern. But the main reason for the front side of that, why is all the hype? Why is all the money? Why is all the content in the new stuff? think about the people who make the most money in the hobby. Think about your eBays, your PSAs, your Millennium Print groups, your distributors, your Pokemon themselves. All the money is made in the primary markets, that first sale to the consumer. So all the advertising, all that stuff is thrown into there. All the hype, moderner, betterer, that is all by design. Like that is by design, because that's where all the people that are making the big bucks are making their big bucks. So that will always be true. That will always be a thing where most of the hype, and if it ceases to be the thing, if Pokemon starts declining, like that would not be good for anybody. So some people get really salty, I think. Some people get really say they like, I prefer most of the vintage stuff. I don't really invest in this stuff. I buy, sell, I collect a little bit. I have stuff from over the years that I've put into my collection. But some people get really salty thinking that they're right and the modern people are wrong, and in the short, medium term time frames, they just get like really mad, and they allow themselves to be antagonized and all these things from like the modern people. Like, I don't know why we need the division. I don't know why we need the us versus them. I think there are very good aspects of both of them, but a lot of the vintage people don't realize that they're being benefited by all this hype, all this craze, all this stuff in modern. Because like I always talk about the funnel, the entry point for everyone, Phantom Forces was my re-entry point. I think most people that get back into it remember where they got back into it. And then it's a funnel. Some amount of people get Phantom Forces and then they dip. Some amount of people get back into evolutions and then they make their way down the funnel. They make their way down into the earlier XY sets. Maybe they Diamond and Pearl. Maybe they go for the Gold Stars. The bottom of the funnel is the people who on a Friday night are one of the 50 people watching a PokeFlipz podcast. Like, not everyone makes it down here, but the acquisition funnel that most people come through is ultra modern. So like, we need that. Don't hate that. Don't get frustrated over that. Two different markets, whatever you want to call it, but that benefits everybody in this space, I think. So that's but the reason that happens is because that's where all the new stuff is coming. New is exciting, and that's just always going to be by design.
New and then more accessible too. It's a lot easier to get into the modern stuff than it is.
You can get it at Walmart on the shelf, Target on the shelf. Like, you can actively buy it from Pokemon Center themselves. You don't have to go on scary eBay and potentially get scammed. Like, people really downplay how afraid of all that stuff the average consumer is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then it's just it's what everyone is talking about. Whereas before, everyone was talking about WotC and how WotC was better than modern. But nowadays, everyone is talking about modern. Nobody talks about WotC. So it makes sense. And then yeah, so that's what I would say. And then I don't know. My first thought was like you were talking, like when you say prize cards, I thought you were talking like trophy cards. And the only thing I would say on that is just because they're popping up so frequently right now, that's why pricing is not doing well on that stuff right now.
And some of that again, I touched on that a little bit, but like vintage prize cards is very broad. There are certain ones that are doing obscene things. I don't want to talk about, but over the weekend, I don't know if the deal ended up closing, but there are like certain art academies that haven't been released as widely. Some of the numbers that are being offered on that, like, yeah, that crazy, like very diverse market, some up, some down as always, some way up though too. What do you think, Chef?
I think, some of it has to do with everybody's buying singles now, right? So Thrifty made a comment one time saying, you know, people like doing the work, and I think that's part of it. I do think people are into grading and what grades better, you know, modern versus vintage right now. So I think it's more fun to interact in the hobby with modern right now to the average person kind of jumping in. And then the cards just look better. Like I do tests with my daughter. Like if my son or daughter has friends over, I'll like show them some vintage versus modern and see just, hey, point, what do you like? What is cooler to you? You know, and you show a base set Venusaur and then you show 151 SIR Venusaur. And it's like, it's like it's a no-brainer to them. So I don't know. All of us kind of like the vintage stuff more, maybe because we're old guys or something. I don't know. But as far as, I guess that's not an as in-depth answer down the rabbit hole, but looking from like an average person jumping in, or like my kids, or a little bit of experience with that, I would say that I think people enjoy sourcing and grading. The ones who are kind of getting into it, I think there is all the hype. It's being talked about publicly on multiple platforms often, so people are kind of in the know or in the conversation. And then I just think the cards are just so well done right now that it just looks neat to the people, average person jumping in and kind of having fun in the hobby.
And I still stand by this. I know people have a hard time separating themselves from what is going on today. But like, I truly think a lot of these cards in 20 years, if you look at, and I'm not holding these things for 20 years. I'm not advocating anyone hold these things for 20 years. But I think in 20 years, if you compare a basket of like good things from very early in the hobby versus that same amount of money in good things from like ultra modern, I think a lot of the vintage will bear out to be a lot better for the investor. I'm not investing in either. I don't think it will beat the other opportunity cost that I have available. But people will just say, "Oh, yeah, that guy's wrong. Look at this line. Look at that line." It's like, okay, I don't actually care enough to. I guess I have cared enough to engage in that debate, that argument from time to time. But yeah, we'll see. Place your bets. We'll see where everything goes. My bets are placed. None of them in either of those things. So, yeah. I think I'm fully caught up on questions. So if anyone has any more questions, feel free to leave them. We will hang out for maybe another half an hour. I guess since I didn't do it yet, you guys gave the Gen Con side very one-sided. Let me do a quick recap.
No, I think we're good. Gen Con beats CollectCon.
Hey, so Gen Con last year in Charlotte seemed more like exciting, but they didn't have like the giant Pikas. They didn't have like all these things.
Oh wait,
there.
Gen Con or CollectCon?
I'm talking about CollectCon. Sorry, in Charlotte. So they didn't have like all the razzle dazzle and stuff. And then the only time I got there was like the quick 15-20 minutes, whatever it was, on the second day, Sunday, and it just
Sunday's always slower.
Yeah,
almost always slow.
But to go from one extreme to the other, I was like, sheesh, it's like it's just like everybody's in a cafeteria over here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like CollectCon is a purely buying, selling event. I think if you're going as a vendor, there's the opportunity to sell 5-6 figures worth of stuff. There are people doing it every convention. If you're going as a buyer, there are people making thousands of dollars, spending thousands to make thousands, grading plays, trade, like whatever they're doing. There's a lot of money to be had on either side of it. But overall, like my highlights of the event are always just the people out, like sometimes inside of the confines of the convention hours, but usually outside, usually the late nights. I got in there Thursday. I did a 4-nighter, which without the family, that was definitely a long one. That definitely probably won't be doing 4 nights next year. But Thursday night I got in. I planned on.
Figures you do 4 nights, the one convention I don't go to.
I mean, Nick's not here, so I'm about to really party. Gonna have a good time this time around. But no, it was a good time. There were a couple. I mean, I can't say that I actually missed anybody because there were too many great people there. But it would have been improved to have even more good people there. There was at least 1 or 2 good people. It sounds like a Gen Con. I mean, I think we got the best one. We did steal the best one for Sunday night, so I'm glad to have had that. But yeah, like Thursday night, I went in, and I'll do a full recap on Monday, like an hour long. If somehow you want that, I'll do like a 3-minute one right now. Let's see if I can do 3 minutes. Thursday, I planned on maybe going out to the bars. Last year, we did the Public House. Love that place. 50+ beers on tap. Quiet setting, not like those loud, clubby city bars. Darts, bocce, shuffleboard. Had a great time. Thursday, I planned on going there, though. I got talking with Ray and Retro in mine and Ray's room. Nick ditched me. I found a new roommate. I had Ray for the whole weekend, so he was great. Didn't snore as loud as Nick. He was great. But we talked till like 3 or 4 in the morning, just hanging out. And it's like, oh man, such a long weekend ahead of us. And we're starting it out by sleeping 4 hours before we go to Rusty's. Friday, we went to Rusty's, 96-degree heat. We played basketball. I did not ride the 4-wheelers as much as I did last year. I should have ridden them more. I quickly took not a lap, but I took like a one-way drive. There was one in the garage that Rusty wanted at the house. So I'm like, yeah, I'll take that back. Well, I called my kids before I did that, kind of broke away from the crowd. But basketball was fun. Seeing Rusty's.
Can we talk about your half-inch jump shot that was posted on the
That was me landing. I was at least 36 inches off the ground, but the avias were airborne. One goal that I made, so I'm in the middle of like losing some weight. I'm down 10 to 15 pounds for the year. I have another 10 or 15 pounds to go. Goal, I'm putting it out there publicly on YouTube right now. I'm going to be dunking at Rusty's next year. Not like mid-game alley-oop from Rusty from half court. I'm not going to be throwing down dunks like dunking NBA on people. But after 10 minutes of stretching and warm-ups, and once I get feeling right, I will throw it on one singular dunk probably. That's my goal for next year, though. Like, I mean, I can get up, I can hit the rim. I can't palm a ball as well as I used to. But anyways, Rusty, gracious host, great food, great all the thing, great people, tons of great conversations. Seeing all his stuff, a lot of it's similar, but like one cool thing is I have 3 snapshots in time now, seeing Rusty's setup. Like, talk about seeing someone doing something at a high level and just seeing how his setup has kind of changed over time. He's moved certain things around. He's gotten new, different inventory, whatever it may be, maybe a couple new collection pieces here and there. Saturday, I sold 95% of my inventory. 25%, maybe 20 to 25% got sold to the general end consumer. Maybe I would have sold 30 to 40% if Sunday had gone well. Usually it's slower, so probably not though. I had 2 people trying to buy me out at the end of the day Saturday. I let one of them go for it at 80%. So I sold 95% of what I had brought. Great convention. I didn't set up the next day. Benji was next to me. He let me pop a few things in his case. So I did like a little consignment deal with Benji. And Saturday night, we did the steakhouse. Steakhouse was phenomenal. They did the whole like 4-course meal thing. And yeah, that was great. Then we did the public house.
Like that? Like the meals versus going there, right?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I appreciate you very much for setting that up for us. That was great. Having left the convention early because I got bought out at about 4, we had the place reserved at like 6, but that's also when the con ended. So me and a few people went early, held the place down, got us established in there, and partook in some of that delicious bread that they had. The brown bread especially. The brown bread with the golden raisins or whatever. Very, very good. Pumpernickel with golden raisins. Yeah, that was really, really good. Friday night, too, after Rusty's, we actually met up. So Friday night and Saturday night, we closed down the public house. A good crew of people. We had some good high contested dart games, bocce games going down right until the bar closed. Great time. Then Sunday night we did Justin's, which was an awesome time. I think we left there around like midnight or so. But Chef and Justin and his family like put on a great meal, put on a great show event for us. He had some live music there. He had the washers out. He had the horseshoes out. He had the grill going. Like, it was a good atmosphere, good time. Some people brought their kids, and he had like the bounce house thing going and the ball pit, and a great, phenomenal time. And then Monday morning, I went with Ray. We had a flight out at the same time. Ray had some issues that he'll probably cover, or maybe he already covered. Getting home, I think he documented that in Discord. But thankfully, my flight was not affected. I was going north, not south, into the hurricane. I'm actually getting the hurricane right now. It's been raining all day. I think we're getting like 3 inches of rain today. But I didn't do 3 minutes, but I think I did like 5 minutes there. So there's my very quick 5-minute weekend. It was a blast.
It did look like a good time. I did miss Rusty, and then I missed Pokemon Wonders dinner.
Yeah,
and you missed me. Maybe the 13th most missed was me on that list. Probably, I'm sure.
I wanted to
well, you were included with Rusty and Pokemon Wonders dinner. Now, that was part of the reason why I missed those.
Yeah. Fun fact, calories do not count at Collecticon weekend. So when you're out and about with the boys, all the IPAs are zero calorie. Chef assured me everything at the dinner on Saturday night and Sunday night was 0 calorie. I had a great time, and you can't be counting calories with the crew. You got to have a good time, got to have some good eats. But I did just polish off my Coke. I'm being bad with that because I've not yet caught up on sleep. So we went to bed at 4 the first night. I went to bed, closed the bar 2, maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock. I actually got to bed. I slept on average 4 hours per night, and I definitely been feeling it this week. My wife actually had a little teaching thing she's doing this week, some like STEM camp things, science, technology, engineering, and what's the M? What's the M in STEM? Math. Yeah, math. So she had a STEM camp going on at school. So I'm actually working nights this week again. Like half this summer, I've been working nights after transitioning back to days. But yeah, I hope to. I intend to catch up on sleep tomorrow finally, after the crazy week. But yeah, let me see if I've missed any questions.
I can't wait to sleep in. Tonight's the first night since Collecticon I'll be able to sleep in. And I can't wait to get all the way to 9 a.m. Can't sleep in if I tried, but I'm going to try.
Oh, here we go. Mr. Kite says, started watching the PokeFlipz playlist from episode 1. That's wild. You got a long ways to go. It's nice to listen to Nick and Dan when they were fishermen. Tips for calculating EV of a product. I made a video some time ago. Like, it's pretty easy to whip up a spreadsheet where you just take the 10 rate, the 9 rate, the 8 rate. You take what the value of each of those are. Big disclaimer, big caveat. There's some selection bias in what's actually going to PSA. Like, if you see that Celebrations Charizard has a 70% 10 rate, people aren't sending every one. Some amount of those are getting pre-selected out before PSA actually grades them. So factor that into your math. But it's pretty easy. Like, percentage chance times market value equals, like, and then you do a sum product of all those things, and that gets you your EV.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. And then like, obviously, if it's something new to you, take your time with it. But then as you start to learn, you'll become quicker, and you won't have to like calculate it out. You'll know, like just like in your mind, okay, if I buy it at 5, it sells for 10, I'll make money on that. But yeah, in the beginning, definitely break everything down. Make a spreadsheet. Figure out what the market value is. Figure out what your cost is, what the fees are, what the shipping would cost, all that stuff. That way, you know, is it actually worth it, or is it not worth it?
Anything to add on that, Chef?
Nah, that's out of my lane.
And if you're like Nick, I think you buy, like, you have a set price for your, like, one of your most popular products is just, what do you do? 4 like Sword and Shield era packs, or 4 Scarlet and Violet era packs?
Yeah, I'll do 5 pack lots. And those do really, really good. And so
and you have a buy price, you have a sell price, like you have a fee percentage, like you just
exactly
figure that out there.
Yeah, exactly.
We went right to grading, but I reread the question and I realized there was no grading written there. So certain things are a little bit more difficult to calculate. You got to take some assumptions whether or not you can beat like the average 10 rate. But with certain things, it's literally like, I'm buying it at this and I'm immediately selling it for some higher percentage. White Castle, you guys had your first White Castle visit, or one of you two did?
Both of us.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, have you ever had White Castle?
Back in college, I had White Castle. They're the ones that do like the suitcase of little burgers, right?
Yeah. Yep.
The crave case, I think it was called. We used to get those when we were out of town at like racquetball tournaments on occasion.
That was actually We did a late night after the trade night and after the bar, but
Yeah,
so
no,
maybe
See,
after
that
the bar,
affected the decision.
it was
But
after
it
Yeah.
was really good.
See,
It
I'm
was
seeing debates in here like White Castle's trash, and then someone saying it's got to be late. Well, yeah, if we're talking like Taco Bell, I will say is a good establishment even during the day. But it's even like fourth meal that hits different. That hits right because
fourth meal's
you're
best meal.
IPAs. You're however many IPAs deep trying to walk through the drive-thru and get yourself some Taco Bell.
I thrive off a fourth meal.
Yeah, like definitely context about what your state is, what your blood alcohol content is, might sway how you would rate these different places.
Hey, I will say, so first time being there, and 1,000 things go through your head, for me at least. But the whole experience was really good. The drive-thru wasn't bad. When we got I don't know how many burgers there was. It was like 30 or 40 of them or something. It was a crazy number, but it's packaged very well. And they're in like little, like almost like little magazines or something. You can kind of like pull out, or little like sections, or they look like deck boxes or something. And then you eat them. But
That's the crave case. Yeah.
It was amazing. I loved every second. I was like, wow, this is so good. What is happening? It was, I loved it. And it was on point. I don't know.
Yes,
what
that was.
I would definitely go back. I want some now.
That was one slight mistake that I actually made on Saturday. I very much appreciate Retro going out and getting. So he wasn't vending, I was vending. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna buy something for the section. I ended up accidentally buying something for 3 sections because I purchased like full size burgers, and I actually told him. I told him like a rough budget. I'm like, as long as it's under a couple $100, whatever. I'm like, give me 20 burgers. Me saying 20 burgers and then saying $200 probably led him towards like a more fine establishment. The burgers were really good, but I was envisioning in my head, as I said, $10 per burger for like a unit price. I was envisioning something like a crave case, something like cheap $3, $4, $5 burgers you get at McDonald's or wherever. He gets like, I don't know where the place was. I think it was not a chain. I think it was like some local, whatever. Burgers were really good, but I got 20 full-fledged like half-pound burgers, whatever they were, and I'm going around the section. I'm like, who wants burgers? We got 20 of them here. Those were a hard sell, and when I say hard sell, it was hard to give them away. It was hard to give them away. And I will say, I will shout out to Java. Java was a local to Charlotte. He drove. Man had us outfitted with like a case of water, a case of Gatorade, a box of granola bars. I think we had like all different kinds of snacks. So I think a lot of people were grazing on those throughout the day. But yeah, I started in my section. I think I got rid of 5, 6, 7 burgers in my section. I gave one to Zach, who wasn't even vending. He was just using our spot as like a home base. I sent some over to Ray's section. I sent some over to Jake's section. 20 burgers of like real burgers was way too much. Next time I'll have to specify like crave case, or maybe just get like 10 or 8 or 10 or something like that. But I didn't want to have too little, but I had way too much. But it worked out. I don't think any went to waste. They just had to spread wider to get gobbled up.
I was crushing those burgers.
Yes.
I think one thing too that made them a harder sell, harder giveaway was that it was probably like 1 and the Capitol Grill was at 6. So it's like you had some people not wanting to, but I'm a big dude. It's like, I'm going to crush this burger. I'm going to crush tonight's dinner. I was not worried for myself there. I definitely did not slack at all at the grill. I ate everything I had and then some. Let me see if I missed any more. But yeah, I don't think I have White Castles around me. I don't think. Maybe an hour. I think years ago I didn't have one for like 4 hours plus, but I think there are some. No, maybe there's not still.
Gonna have to go on a road trip somewhere to find one.
Yeah, it looks like they're a more Midwest thing. Did we get the chicken rings? Is that a White Castle thing? Chicken rings?
No,
I didn't even know that was a thing.
neither did I.
Huh. Chef was pulling a David Hasselhoff eating on the floor.
No, that was crushing up.
Oh man, yeah, those late night stacks hit right.
They're the best.
Yes.
Yeah. That was one nice thing about the public house too. I forget, might have been Saturday. No, it wouldn't have been Saturday night. Must have been Friday night because we ate lunch and dinner at Rusty's, but dinner was probably 6-ish or something. When you're closing down the bar at 2, I think we ate at like 11 or midnight or something at the bar. They had really good food there too. I think the public house, it's going to be hard to be torn away from there. I think that might be a staple. It's like 5 minutes
that was
walking.
Fun last year. That place was cool last year.
My kind of bar, at least where I'm not the clubby type. I'm not having to scream someone 2 feet away from you. I did end up losing my voice at this convention again. I think the 4 a.m. kickoff there, no alcohol involved, but the 4 a.m. kickoff really started me on bad footing with my voice. But yeah, like a little bit of music, a lot of space, good food, a lot of beer selection, reasonable prices. Like that's my kind of place for sure. Chicago, do we want to? I think we fully recap now. Gen Con and Charlotte. Is Chicago both of your next ones, or are you doing like Richmond or Atlanta? Anyone doing any of those?
I'm supposed to do Richmond, but I don't think I'm going to be able to because my sous chef's about to have his baby. So this is his last week. And then the second half or 2 weeks out is that weekend. And I don't know if I'm going to be set up to be able to take that time off. Usually I'm set up better in there, but I have a scenario where a lot of guys are like very complacent with where they're at. They don't really want to move up or do anything, or the ones that are kind of interested aren't really ready for it yet. So I could probably take the time off, but the more responsible decision is to not do it and kind of keep an eye on things. So I don't think I'm going to do Richmond, but Chicago for sure. Chicago's going down.
And Richmond's coming in hot. It's not 2 weeks after Charlotte, but it's 3 weeks after. So it's 2 weeks from this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. So it's that, then it's Atlanta, then it's Chicago. Definitely doing Chicago. Not vending personally. Gonna be just walking the floor, hanging out, staying up late, hanging with everybody. But Chicago's gonna be my last one too. After that, there's Houston again to close it out in November.
Yeah.
But Nick, it's just Chicago for you too, right? None of the others?
Yep, that'll be my last one. That'll be my last one for sure.
What about that Comic-Con?
Oh yeah, New York Comic-Con.
Yeah. Maybe, possibly. I don't think that's gonna happen though, because I think
That's the weekend.
Sellers.
That's the weekend after Chicago.
Yeah.
That's less than a week.
That'd be a lot. That'd be a lot.
Yeah, and I actually have. So I think it's Chicago Collecticon. 2 weeks later, I have a wedding in Chicago. And then I think it's 2 weeks after that, I have another wedding in like Vermont. So
okay.
Yeah,
I was gonna say you have 3 weddings back to back.
Chicago.
Vermont wedding is the one I was thinking of. Yes.
Yeah. The remainder of the year is going to be busy. And it's already been a busy year, like all the ones that I've already done. So Chicago is definitely going to close out my year. And then, I mean, Gary on Pokemon Wonders thing, they're talking like 15 for next year. I'm really interested to see. Do either of you have like what are your must attends? Charlotte is, I think, a big one for me because it's like the shortest flight. It's very easy to get to. A lot of great people centered around Charlotte. Other than that, I think Orlando I've made every year since I've been going. But honestly, February was the big draw. The kickoff was the big draw. If they stick with May or June, I will probably not be doing Orlando again. Chicago, like I feel like my most likely are going to be Charlotte and Chicago and then New Jersey because it's drivable if that happens again. Hopefully I get like a Albany, Buffalo, Syracuse, Verona, maybe even. Who knows? But yeah, it's gonna be like check out the schedule when it drops, see when the weddings, the birthdays, the graduation parties, see when all that, and then whatever fits, because 15 is wild.
Yeah,
that is a lot. That is a lot.
I'd rather them make them bigger, like less,
Yes,
bigger, like Gen Con, like rent out that whole space and spread it out, do better food, just make it better. I'd rather them make it better than more locations.
I think an issue with that, though, is like in our minds, we all see our own experiences, so we extrapolate that onto other people. 90+% of the foot traffic, I'm convinced it's got to be locals. I think a lot of people in their minds, like, we fly to all these things. I don't know, like what do they get? Nick, have you heard the numbers before, or could you share them?
They told me once. I forget exactly, but it
20,
was like 70% of the people that are going to these events are local, and it's like 30% are flying there. It's I don't know if those are the exact numbers, but it's something like that.
And some of them, like Kansas City, maybe certain locations, I'm sure like a New Jersey, there might be ones where they could 5X an individual con, but it's probably like an easier lift to just add more locations and do them with 20,000 than to try to take. And that was actually what I was trying to get at too. Like, do you know what the total numbers of attendance of any of these things are? Do you know? Like,
no.
I feel like I've heard numbers, but I'd just be mostly guessing. Say they're like 20,000 or something. Trying to 5 or 10x that number instead of adding a couple more dates, like there's probably a lot more that goes into that specifically. And maybe what they'll do, maybe they'll do 15, maybe they'll do 18. At some point they might realize like, hey, this is a little bit much. We can't really, and then maybe they will like contract. Maybe they're just, I mean, they're brand new, right? What are they, 4 years old? Maybe they're just feeling out all these different locations. And then they'll hone in on like, these will be our 6, these will be our 12, these will be whatever the number is. I genuinely have no idea, like pure speculation. I've talked with the brothers before, but I don't have any insight into like longer term plans.
I wish they do one in Raleigh. I think Raleigh has a better setup than what Charlotte does. A better, like, Charlotte is a lot of construction. There's a lot going on over there, and Charlotte's nice, but I think I like Raleigh better. And Raleigh has a space for it. Raleigh has a convention center for it. It's easier to like park, navigate. There's a lot more accessible restaurants. I think it'd be overall better in Raleigh. I think they would have a better turnout. I think there's more of a Pokemon population in Raleigh versus Charlotte. Maybe that's baseless opinion, but I think it would be very successful in Raleigh. I think it would possibly be strong enough if they did 2 in one state that it could probably work. But I think switching it from Charlotte to Raleigh would be awesome. It'd definitely be a win for like me and Java and stuff. Being right here would be awesome.
Slightly biased take. I mean, I think Verona, New York would be great too. But apparently, though, like a year ago or so, it was big local news to me. The Turning Stone Casino is actually putting in, like, I think one of the biggest convention centers in the state. So maybe 2026, 2027, maybe I will get one in my backyard. That'd be cool.
That would be very cool. That would be really cool. I would take that.
Pokemage says they need a Nashville, Tennessee. I'm sure they could do one there. I mean, Worlds.
Yeah, they did.
Worlds was a massive setup there. They did Worlds there. Like, it's crazy to think how many they've done and how many states and cities they haven't even touched yet. Like, there's so many. There's probably 50 cities that could very easily support, if not even more, that could very easily support a Collecticon. Whereas a Gen Con, you start trying to 5x, 10x one of these things, get to 100,000 more. Now it's a little bit more difficult. But selfishly, it is an interesting idea that they would only do 3 or 4 a year again, and then you go to almost all of them. Like being able to say you went to all of them and you got to see everyone at all of them. You get a higher attendance rate if there were fewer, right? You get more people having to choose. But I truly like that they're going with more. Maybe I'll say next year 15 is way too many, or 20, 24, 25, whatever they're doing in a few years. But I lean towards liking that more. Life is busy. A lot of people have a lot of things going on. And if they only have 4 in a year, and one is during your sister's wedding, and one is during like you're having a kid, then it gets really like, oh man, this sucks. The 25% of the dates don't work for me. but it's a nice problem we have. And there's so many great people going to so many great events, like damn near every weekend of the year. Like it's wild.
Yeah, there's a lot happening for sure.
Bullish on the hobby.
Bullish on that, especially after Gen Con. Look at all the nerds that were there for stuff we don't even know about.
Exactly.
Right?
How do we convert them all? How do we get them into Pokemon? How do we get them into cards? Like, come on,
We
you gotta
should.
be.
But if it's that pack for like no name, well, I don't want to say no name, but just stuff where you can look around in a circle and you're like, I have no idea about any of this. And then the amount of dice that's sold.
I was gonna say, you know who the real winners in the hobby are? The people who sell dice.
There's so much dice sold that there's another booth for satchels for dice to put your dice in.
It opens your eyes up to like how big these hobbies are. Like you can run an entire business off selling a container for people's various dice for playing these games. It's pretty interesting. Let's see. So would y'all make the trip if Collecticon was out of the country, let's say in South America, Europe, or Asia? The big thing with me is like Worlds was in London, Worlds was in Japan. The amount of additional time you need to spend to get to those events, the amount of additional cost and time. It's just I'd rather spend that going to a different event or like two events. That's where my head is at personally.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
It's too long of a flight, too long of a trip. It's just too long overall. I don't think I would.
It depends where for me. Like if they do something in like Merida, Mexico, I'm there. I always talk about that place, but there I'll go, or like anything Caribbean and warm, Bahamas or anything like that. Yeah, sign me up. But anywhere cold or long flight or anything, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, it's just so like people are going to be having a blast in a couple of weeks in Hawaii, but the cost of it is going to be like 3, 4, 5 times as much as going to a Charlotte, to an Orlando, to a Chicago. And I can get to Charlotte within a few hours, total transit time. Hawaii is like double, triple that. I don't even know how long it takes to fly to Hawaii, but I know when I flew to Alaska on my honeymoon, that was a long flight, real long flight. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big dude, and I don't fit on planes well.
And Hawaii is even further.
Both flights, I don't. If I'm going with my wife, I'll pay to pick the seat so that I'm sitting next to her. But if I'm going alone, I boarding group 9. I don't pay to pick my seat. Both times I got the extra legroom area, so both time I got lucky. I got slotted into a nice seat.
Your head hits the luggage. You're helping everybody with their luggage.
Yeah, I'm going through. I flew out on a very small plane. I had to duck the whole way. I can't stand up straight. On the way back, it was a bigger plane. That one I could stand up most of the way. But yeah, first one was one of those planes too, where like the wheelie bags, even though they're sized for being like the carry-on size, they don't fit in anywhere in the plane. So everyone with a wheelie bag carry-on, everyone got gate checked, and no way around that. It's like, I'm not a big fan of that, but. I didn't have much inventory in there. I always sweat it a little bit, but thankfully I got that fine.
The pilot on my plane was roasting wheelie bags because somebody was grabbing one as he was getting his, and he had just like a duffel. And then somebody said, "Oh, no wheels." And he's like, "Wheels on bags are for women." He just like hopped off the plane. It was hilarious. I was like, "What?" Crazy.
That's
pilot.
Funny. I think we're about there. Yeah, it is 7, just about. So
it's time for dinner.
Thanks, Chef, for coming on. Yeah, it is time for dinner. Definitely go find him on Instagram. Go follow PokeChef954. Thanks everyone in chat. Thanks for hanging out. We had a constant stream of questions. It was nice. Cool. We had a good show today. Anything else to say in closing, guys?
Thanks for coming on, Chef. I do appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
And thanks everyone in chat for hanging out with us.
Mm-hmm.
As Walrus says, it was indeed podcast. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Hope everyone has a great weekend. We will catch you all later.